Chapter 511. After leaving the nursery, Feng Bujue was in a bad mood. He had thought that after completing such a difficult side mission, he would at least get a perfect equipment or something. In the end, he only got a plot item. Item name, meal card item type. Plot item quality, normal function, can be purchased from the hospital's 1F cafeteria. Can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. This is Cedar County Public Hospital's employee card. The employee has to go to the cafeteria to recharge it. After completing a side mission, I got a plot item that can't be turned into a puzzle card. In other words, this thing has to be a necessary item to complete another side mission. Feng Bujue held the meal card in his hand. I've paid such a heavy price to complete the mission and get this card, so I can't just leave it like that. Therefore, I have to do another side mission related to this item. He pocketed the meal card and sighed. Sigh. This scenario looks like I can do nothing, but there are so many things that I can't finish. Hee hee. The laughter that had appeared once before rang out again, as if it was guiding the players forward. Room 125, huh? Brother Bujue followed the sound and came to the door of a pediatric sick room. He glanced at the door number and reached out to open it. The door was not locked. It opened with a twist of the doorknob. For a few seconds, Feng Bujue was quite unsettled. He was afraid that the system would say the door is locked again, and he would have to find another key somewhere else. Hee hee. Uncle, you're here. The little girl sat on the bed in the corner of the room. Her face was still covered by her long hair, and the red dress that she was wearing stood out in the shadows. Ah, yes, Feng Bujue said. As promised, I'm here to help you comb your hair. The little girl slowly got up and stood up. She walked half a circle around the bed and walked to the bedside table. She reached out to open the drawer and took out a large mirror with a stand. Her movements were very slow, and her every movement revealed a strange aura. This made people more and more concerned about what her face looked like. After setting up the mirror, the little girl moved a stool to sit down. Her face was facing the mirror, and behind the hair that covered her forehead, an ethereal voice said, I want to comb my hair into a ponytail. Oh, okay. Feng Bujue took out the comb from his pocket. Your hair is so long. Is it a double ponytail? Okay. For some reason, the little girl's tone turned cold. If this was a horror movie, then the atmosphere at this moment had undoubtedly reached a critical point. This meant that a shocking situation was about to happen. At this point, anyone could guess that something bad would happen when he brushed away the hair on the little girl's forehead. Naturally, Feng Bujue knew that as well, but he did not mind it. After all, his terror points would not change, and that was what it meant to be fearless. Brother Ju strode to the little girl's back and placed both of his hands on the girl's forehead. When his fingers reached into the girl's hair, a chill seeped through his fingertips. Feng Bujue did not hesitate and moved the hair away from the girl's forehead. In the next second, he saw an extremely terrifying face in the mirror. The little girl looked humanoid, but the skin on her face was made of something that looked like scales. There were 8 eyes on her face, and they were arranged in 2 rows. She had no nose, and her lips were lipless, bearing 2 rows of fangs. Since there was no light in the room, Feng Bujue placed the flashlight on the bedside table and shone it diagonally at the little girl. This kind of light from the bottom up would be scary even if it shone on a human face, much less on a monster's face. However, Feng Bujue was as calm as ever. He continued to comb the girl's hair like it was nothing. Uncle, do you like to listen to stories? At this moment, the little girl suddenly asked. I do, Feng Bujue answered calmly, but in his heart, he was thinking, another side mission? Or more information about the plot? Then how about I tell you a story? The little girl continued to ask. Go ahead, Feng Bujue said. I'm very slow at combing my hair. His so-called very slow could actually be interpreted as I don't know how to. Obviously, a man who couldn't even tie his shoelaces when he was young would not know how to comb hair. In fact, when the girl said, I want to comb my hair into a ponytail, Feng Bujue's mind was completely blank. His answer of double ponytails was purely a way to stall for time. A long time ago, this place was not a hospital. The little girl began to tell her story. Hey, once you start talking, it's super bad. Feng Bujue only heard half of the sentence and complained to his heart. Don't tell me you're saying that this place used to be a graveyard. It used to be a cemetery. The second half of the little girl's sentence confirmed his guess. Is it that cliché? Feng Bujue said. It is said that this is a cursed land. The little girl continued. Any soul that is buried here will never be able to rest in peace. And those who wander here for a long time will also encounter misfortune. Hey, is it okay to build a hospital here? Feng Bujue asked in shock. One day a greedy man came here. The little girl continued. He embezzled the county government's funds and forcibly expropriated this cheap, cursed land. He built a hospital here. Oh, I seem to understand a lot of things all of a sudden. Feng Bujue responded. It took a long time for the hospital to be completed. During the construction process, there were many accidents and injuries. Even the construction team was changed several times, but the greedy man did not care and insisted on carrying out his plan. The little girl continued. Finally, the hospital was completed. This cursed land became a cursed hospital. Every day, many people would step into this forbidden land that they should never have set foot in. She paused for a moment. Some of them could leave, some could not. Even for those who left this place, the shadow of misfortune would follow them for a long time. It was as if there was an invisible force that led them back to this place. The little girl's ethereal voice was getting louder and louder as she spoke, and her tone was gradually filled with anger and resentment. Chapter 512. Looks like you're not a patient of this hospital, Feng Bujue asked probingly. His hands did not stop moving, and his mind was spinning. The story that the girl told, the tone of her voice, and the clothes she was wearing all revealed the same thing. She was probably one of the earliest earthbound spirits on this land. Why do you say that? The girl asked. I've looked at the map of the first floor 3 or 4 times and personally visited many places. I can basically confirm that on the first floor of the hospital near the lobby, there are only 18 rooms with room numbers 101 to 118. And on the other side of the cafeteria, Block B, the room numbers should start from 101B. Feng Bujue answered. So, this room 125 does not exist. After the little girl heard this, she did not respond at all. She sat where she was and did not say anything. What's going on? My words did not trigger the next step of the plot? Or did I trigger something bad? Brother Ju wondered internally. Or is it because I didn't manage to comb her hair properly? If you don't know how to comb her hair, then stop wasting time. Right then, the girl suddenly changed the topic. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and hesitated for 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, he was considering whether to continue or not. Fine. In the end, he gave up. Put down the comb, the girl said coldly. I'll do it myself. As she said that, she raised her small hand and added, according to our agreement, I'll give you this. A piece of candy had appeared in her palm. It was a square piece of candy wrapped in a piece of black candy paper, and it faintly emitted a cereal fragrance. Name, Little Black Rabbit Creamy Candy Type. Plot item quality, normal function. Perhaps you can use it to exchange for something. Can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. A weird tasting snack, the favorite of the White Wolf tribe. Phew, this is great. So, all I need to do is hand over the comb. Feng Bujue was secretly glad. Brother Ju quickly put the comb on the bedside table and reached out to take the candy. Uncle, you still have a lot of things to do, the little girl said immediately after handing over the candy. She tilted her head back and stared at Brother Ju. You'd better hurry up. Your time is running out. Cold, bone-chilling cold. The little girl's words were like a basin of ice water, drenching Feng Bujue's heart. This wasn't a mental illusion, but a real cold, a cold that was almost suffocating. Then I'll take my leave. When Feng Bujue said this, he could clearly see the white steam coming out of his mouth. He opened the game menu to take a look, and the frostbite status was clearly displayed. These unforeseen events were all sending out a clear signal. They shouldn't stay here for long. Looks like this room 125 is similar to the security room. Once some kind of trigger is triggered, the player will have to leave immediately, or else it'll be a dead end. Feng Bujue thought to himself. Since he knew something was wrong, there was no reason for him to hesitate. He grabbed the flashlight and turned to run. Brother Jew was not slow, but he was still too late. In these few short seconds, a pair of invisible, cold, giant hands had already gripped him in the middle of their palms. Piercing pain came from his joints, and his muscles suddenly froze and went numb. At that moment, the door that was so close felt like it was hundreds of miles away from him. Every step he took was incredibly difficult. Oh, F***CK. Fong Bujue did not mean to curse, but upon closer inspection, he actually spat out the gum in his mouth with a "oh," and then cursed under his breath. The 3 times the size of the gum in his mouth had now turned into a large lump of ice. If he had spat it out a few seconds later, the lump of ice would have frozen in his mouth and blocked his throat. No way. Fong Bujue looked at his rapidly decreasing life points and was shocked. 5 seconds later, he finally finished the few steps with gritted teeth and reached for the door handle. Thankfully, there was no difficulty in opening the door. He twisted and turned, and the door opened smoothly. Just a little bit more. Brother Jew used all the energy in his body to dash out the door. At the same time, he swung his arm and slammed the door of room 125. Bang! After the sound of the door closing, the feeling of cold disappeared. Fong Bujue knelt in the corridor and panted for a long time before he could catch his breath. The rising temperature quickly removed his frostbite status, and the loss of life points stopped. That was close. He turned over and sat on the ground. He picked up the flashlight that had rolled by his feet and mumbled. This difficulty came out of nowhere. He took out the candy from his pocket and looked at it in his palm. This plot is not even a side mission, but it is so difficult. Could it be? A light bulb lit up in his mind, and his expression shifted. I get it now. Fong Bujue sighed and stood up from the ground. In any case, I should find that key first. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Fong Bujue walked out from the dark corridor and mumbled, the key to the pediatric consultation room isn't here. When he returned to the relatively brighter area, he switched off the flashlight and put it away. Thankfully, I found something else. Obviously, the mission given by the goblin was not going to be as easy as he thought. After Brother Jew exited room 125, when he turned back to look, the door to the room had already disappeared. Then, he tried every door in the dark area. Other than the nursery room that he had visited earlier, there were only 2 rooms that he could enter, and all the other doors said, cannot be opened. Thus, he rummaged through the 2 rooms and dismantled the furniture. Finally, he found 2 items. Unfortunately, they weren't keys. The first one was item name, torn X-ray film item type, plot item, rarity, broken function, unknown can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. It is only half of the film. Under the light, it appears to show some blurry images. This was found on the back of a burnt child. When Brother Jew prepared to remove this half of the film, the system provided him with a caption. This X-ray film is stuck to a burnt object. Tearing it off might damage it. With such an obvious hint, naturally he followed it. With the aid of the hairspray, he slowly peeled the film off the back of the child. The second item he found was undeniably the other half of the torn X-ray film. However, in the end, Fong Bujue did not bring the 2 films out with him. Because the 2 films themselves had no value, the only thing that was useful was the 6-digit code that was recorded on the film. In the dark, Brother Jew had used a flashlight to observe these 2 unknown items. Therefore, after he exited the room, he headed straight for room 109. Once he entered the door, he jumped toward the treasure chest. The interface to unlock the chest appeared before his eyes, and the prompt said, please enter the 6-digit code. 203040. After Fong Bujue keyed in the code, the notification said the code is correct. With a click, the treasure chest opened. Brother Jew had high hopes that he would be able to get a new equipment or skill, but item name, key to the pediatric consultation room, emergency, item type, plot item quality, normal function, you can see the item's name. Can be taken out of the scenario, no remark. This is strange. Why would this key be locked inside a lockbox? And the code to the lockbox is recorded on an X-ray film? And the X-ray film is torn in half, and placed in two different places? What the hell is going on? Yes, what the hell is going on? Feng Bujue read the item description that was filled with malice and could not help but roar. F*CK. The system is spitting out all the F*CK. Speaking of which, the key should be the strangest item in all the puzzle-solving games. Hiding the key to room A in room B, then hiding the key to room B in room C. Repeating this cycle and setting up layers upon layers of puzzles. Isn't this the most illogical thing? Indeed, if one had to conclude, most horror games use this method to guide the player so that the player could start the exploration in a certain order. Humph! After Feng Bujue roared, his annoyance dissipated slightly. Oh well, at least I completed one of the missions. He picked up the key and walked toward the pediatric consultation room that was not far away. He used the key to open the door to the consultation room and pushed it open. There was no light in the room, so he turned on the flashlight to start his search. Even though the atmosphere in the room was oppressive, there were no hidden scares. Of course, even if there were, for Brother Jew, it was nothing. Not long after, he found the mission item in one of the drawers of the desk. Item name, Victor's key item type, plot item quality, normal function, unlock Victor's family's wine cellar. Can be taken out of the scenario. No note. Many years ago, Victor Ridwalks was just a second-hand vendor who sold old goods. He was a nobody, until one day, he obtained the recipe for a mysterious drink from a faraway eastern country. After that, he frequently carried out trading activities with the dwarves, and his business was smooth sailing. He quickly became a well-known nouveau riche. When people asked him the secret to his success, Victor would say, "The dwarves are generous entrepreneurs, and my wine cellar is more like a money-printing factory." It's you. After reading the remark, Feng Bujue was reminded of something, and he yelled, "It's you." That's right. Victor Ridwalks was the guy who bought Blood Corpses Must Die from the legendary dwarven craftsman, or Must Die. The life of Mr. All Must Die could be said to be a grand and tragic epic. He was scammed many times because of the four words: wine, sex, avarice, and anger. It was these scams that spurred him to create many legendary items. And Victor's appearance was the prologue to this epic. Feng Bujue, suddenly laughed wickedly. I have a feeling that I can use this thing to blackmail him. His face darkened, and he pretended to say, "Wei, if you don't hand over 8 or 10 legendary items today, I will eat your precious key." After fantasizing for a while, Brother Bujue carefully put away his blackmail capital and walked out of the room toward the dining room. He had no idea there was an old friend waiting for him there. At the same time, in the kitchen of the dining room, a large figure was busy in front of the spacious kitchen counter. His body was humanoid, but he had a pig's head. He was wearing a white singlet and camouflage military trousers, and he had a big belly. His exposed muscles were light pink, and the muscles on his arms looked as hard as rocks. Suddenly, he turned his head slightly and muttered, "Finally, here." As he spoke, he put down the long spoon in his hand, covered the lid of the pot in front of him, and turned the gas to a small flame. Then, he picked up a kitchen knife and walked out of the kitchen. Chapter 513. After leaving the pediatrics clinic, Feng Bujue arrived at the cafeteria. The lighting there was neat and tidy, and the lighting was brighter than in the corridor. With a glance, the whole place was clear. Even though it was not small, the layout of the cafeteria gave off a cramped feeling. All the tables and chairs were arranged close together, and the chairs were welded together with the tables. The space between the tables was just large enough for a person to walk through. The counter for distributing food was directly connected to the kitchen, and it was located on the eastern side of the cafeteria. On the western side was a corridor where several vending machines and trash cans were placed. There was an exit at the northern and southern ends, and they were connected to Block A and Block B on the first floor of the hospital. After this period of exploration, Feng Bujue had noticed a problem. Other than the corridor that was distorted in space and the room 125 that did not even exist, all the rooms in the hospital had a strange sense of incongruity. This feeling could be summed up in one sentence: There is no extra space. It was as if the building had been filled with too many rooms, and the layout of each room was stretched thin. You sure are slow. A familiar voice suddenly entered Feng Bujue's ears. Brother Ju whipped his head around and saw a large figure walk out from the kitchen. He had a pig's head and a human body, and he was radiating a murderous aura. You? Feng Bujue's expression shifted. Why are you here? Why can't I be here? As Oink spoke, he was already closing in. Then, Feng Buju suddenly realized that the man was holding a cleaver. What are you doing? He jumped back and pulled out the retractable knife to defend himself. Don't panic, Feng Bujue, Oink replied. You're now using Lester's body. If I really want to cut you, you won't be able to defend yourself. When he said that, he had already walked to Brother Ju. Feng Bujue was not surprised that Oink could see through his real body. When they met last time, he had already determined that the man was a unique data, so it was normal for him to have this kind of power. However, at this moment, Brother Ju really didn't know why the other party had appeared, and what was their goal. I'm just here to give you something, Oink said. Before he could finish his sentence, he flipped the knife in his hand and turned the handle of the kitchen knife to the front, handing it over to Feng Bujue. Brother Ju hesitated for a moment before reaching out to take the knife. The moment the item entered his hand, he quickly browsed through it. Name: Invulnerable Blade. Type: Weapon Rarity. Perfect Attack. Attribute: None. Special Effect: When the defense of the slain target, including players, monsters, NPCs, is strong or higher, the attack will always be 0, 1 higher than the target's defense. Equip Requirement: Fighting Mastery. A. Bound after equip can be taken out of the scenario. Yes. Remark: Under normal circumstances, this is a blunt knife that can't cut through anything. But when necessary, it can cut through everything. After reading the item description, Feng Bujue immediately turned to the man with excitement. He used his unique sense of humor to thank him. Second Senior Brother, thank you so much for your kindness. Be more serious when you thank me. Oink roared as he slapped her across the face. Feng Bujue was sent flying by the slap. He spun 2.5 times in the air before landing. He was unlucky enough to fall on the edge of the kitchen knife. 2 seconds later, he jumped up and yelled, if you dare say even my father didn't hit me, I'll slap you again. Oink cut him off. TSK. Brother Ju scoffed with annoyance and mumbled under his breath. You want to stop me from mocking you? Do you think I won't stab you with a knife? At this point, he suddenly realized that even though he had fallen on the edge of the knife, he was not injured. He merely felt a bit of discomfort. Now you have a general understanding of the specialty of this knife, right? Oink seemed to have understood something from Brother Ju's eyes. He continued, Actually, this is the kitchen knife that you gave me many years ago. Now, I have returned it to its rightful owner. Feng Bujue heard that and thought about it for a few seconds. I say, Brother Oink, we are not related in any way. So why would you, haven't I told you already? Oink said, I'm just here to give you something. Feng Bujue's expression shifted. Oh, so you're here on someone else's request? Yes, Oink replied. The knife that you're holding was personally modified by the Count of Script, and it was he who asked me to give it to you. When Brother Ju heard that, he thought, one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. However, he maintained his composure and used a ruffian's tone to say, What? Is the Count of Script trying to recruit me? Not really, Oink said, quoting his own words. Feng Bujue is amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. Give him some benefits, and it will help with communication. Ha! Brother Ju scoffed. Then, he must have asked you to pass some words to me. Just one sentence. Oink went along with the flow. The demonic spirit pivot is actually a key. A key, Feng Bujue mumbled. Just hearing that word gives me a headache. I've already passed the message, Oink said. Oink said as he reached into his pocket and took out a key. Take this. Feng Bujue did not think much of it. After all, since the man handed him something, he would accept it. Item name, blood bank key item type, plot item quality, normal function, open the door to the blood bank. Can be taken out of the scenario. No, I don't know why this thing is in the hands of a chef. I say. Feng Bujue raised his eyes to look at Oink. You don't work at this hospital, do you? No. Then, how did you get this key? I found it on the chef here, Oink replied. Where is the chef? When Feng Bujue asked that question, he already had a bad feeling in his heart. He's cooking in a pot, Oink said. In a bit, go to the kitchen and eat the pot yourself. You'll be fully recovered. Ha! Ha ha! Brother Ju's lips twitched. Thank you. After saying this, Oink prepared to leave. But just as he was about to turn around, he seemed to have thought of something and said, Oh, by the way, you'd better put that saber into your dimensional pocket. He paused for a moment, and the look in his eyes changed slightly. I'm afraid the space you're in now is a little different from what you imagined. My inventory has been locked. Feng Bujue admitted. How troublesome. Oink shook his head. He walked forward, grabbed the knife, and stabbed it diagonally into Brother Ju's chest. The next second, the thing was really shoved into Feng Bujue's inventory. Wow. Brother Ju's eyes glowed. Brother Oink, can you help me get something out? No. Oink's answer was firm and direct. Goodbye. Then he turned to leave. Feng Bujue did not want to waste any more time with the man, because this butcher of heaven seemed to be saying, if you dare come any closer, I'll whip you. After Oink left, Brother Ju did not rush to the vending machine to get the mission item. Instead, he went to the kitchen. This time, he was extra careful. To prevent the room from collapsing after he got the plot item, he decided to investigate the environment first before going to get the cold beer. What happened here? When Feng Bujue stepped into the kitchen, he saw blood and organs splattered all over the floor on the counter not far away from him. There was a white wolf's head. The wolf's face had human-like features. It looked like a werewolf. But the wolf's body had disappeared, or rather, it was being stewed in the pot. After giving it some thought, Brother Ju got the gist of the situation. This is no doubt the chef of the hospital cafeteria, Feng Bujue said. Then, the original two events here should be using candy to exchange for the blood bank key and using the meal card to exchange for a meal that can regenerate blood. He paused for a moment. And now Oink has used violence to help me skip these two steps. With that in mind, Brother Ju slammed the table and roared. Then why did I eat that moldy sandwich? Why? After a moment of frustration, he could only give up. He opened the pot and started to eat the meat soup made by the White Wolf Race chef. In any case, this pot of wolf meat, let's call it wolf meat for now, soup was at least freshly cooked with fresh ingredients. It was much better than the sandwich that had been sitting there for who knew how long. Furthermore, Oink's cooking was not bad. The food he made was not bad. Of course, even if it was bad, it did not matter to Feng Bujue. After eating the meat soup, Brother Ju's life points and stamina points were fully replenished. Then he started to search the kitchen and cafeteria. Other than pots and pans, there were knives in the kitchen. Even if they were normal kitchen utensils, they were better than the foldable knife in Brother Ju's pocket. Therefore, he randomly picked one for self-defense. But that was it. He searched for a long time, but did not find anything valuable. Therefore, Feng Bujue finally came to the vending machine and took out the coins in his pocket. Wait! Just as he was about to throw in the coins, he thought of another problem. If I buy it now, it will be cold beer, but if I keep it in my pocket for too long, won't the beer become warm? Chapter 514. In the end, Feng Bujue still did not manage to buy the beer. After all, the mission tab clearly stated that it was iced beer. If he brought a warm one back, he might not be able to complete the mission. Furthermore, even if he wanted to buy the beer and send it back to complete the mission, there had to be a way out. The corridor that he took to get to the first floor was no doubt one way. With his current fitness level, he could not jump back, so he had to find another way out. Therefore, Brother Ju did not touch the vending machine for the time being. Instead, he chose to investigate elsewhere. The hospital did not have a basement. The only facility that was built underground was the blood bank. Therefore, the location of the blood bank was marked on the 1F map. Feng Bujue had memorized the map before, so he knew where it was. He left from the north side of the cafeteria and entered Block B on the first floor. He walked quickly down the corridor and headed straight for his destination. 3 minutes later, he reached the door of a freight elevator. On the wall next to the elevator door, there was a line of words, "Lead to the underground blood bank." Brother Jew raised his head to look at the floor sign above the elevator. It showed 1F. Therefore, he took half a step back and turned sideways to face the elevator door. He held the cleaver in one hand and pressed the elevator button with the other. With a ding, the door opened. There was no one inside. The walls and floor of the elevator were heavy metal. It was not the kind of material that could be used as a mirror. The lighting on the ceiling was working normally as well. At first glance, there did not seem to be anything out of the ordinary. For the sake of caution, Fong Bujue quickly took out his sunglasses and poked his head in to take a closer look. It looked like there was not even a ghost. After confirming that it was safe, he walked in. There were 2 control panels in the elevator, and they were located at opposite corners. The control panel had the usual buttons such as open door, closed door, emergency stop, and so on. There were a total of 3 floor buttons, namely 2F, 1F, and B1. Can I go to 3F? Fong Bujue did not press the B1 button. Instead, he pressed 2F to see if he could go up. The elevator door closed, and there was a rumbling sound. Several seconds later, when the door opened again, the words 2F appeared on the wall outside the door. Fong Bujue poked his head out to look around before walking out of the elevator. He walked along the corridor for a while and soon found a fork in the road. He still remembered that he had passed by this intersection when he was being chased by Chad, but he didn't turn at that time. After finding the old path, Brother Jew quickened his pace. A few minutes later, he returned to the T-junction with the 2F map. Very good. In this case, the terrain of the first and second floors should be more or less clear. He stood in front of the map and looked at it for a few seconds. This time, he wasn't trying to do a puzzle in his mind. Instead, he was trying to remember and deepen his impression. In less than a minute, Brother Jew turned around and left to avoid attracting Chad's attention. Then, he returned to the elevator that he had taken at the start of the scenario. He wanted to see if this elevator could take him to the 3rd floor. But to his surprise, when he pressed the button, he got this message from the system. This elevator has malfunctioned and cannot be used. Okay. Fong Bujue shrugged. With no other choice, he retraced his steps and jogged back to the elevator that was connected to the blood bank. Entering the elevator, Brother Jew still did not choose to go to the blood bank. Instead, he took the elevator to the 1st floor and ran back to the restaurant. He used the coins in his pocket to buy a can of cold beer from the vending machine. He did not dare waste any time. While the beer was still cold, he moved quickly. He took the elevator to the 2nd floor and ran down the corridor until he reached room 216. When he pushed the door open, he was gasping for air. "Hey, have you found my key?" Victor was the first to ask Brother Jew. Ha! Fong Bujue's tongue was dangling out from his lips. He leaned against the door frame and gasped for air. "Stop wasting my breath," he growled impatiently and then continued to pant. Brother Jew was used to running at high speed in the game. Now that he had been running for a while in Lester's body, he felt like he was going to die. When I was being chased by Chad earlier, I didn't notice it because I didn't run for long and the situation was urgent. Brother Jew thought to himself. Now that I've been running for such a long time, it's obvious. This kid, Lester's stamina is too weak. His physique is even weaker than mine in real life, right? In any case, he still hasn't gotten the 2 packs of type E blood that I need. The Duke in the bed next to him added, "I don't smell any blood. What have you been doing all this time?" Victor shrugged and turned to ask Brother Jew, "Do you know that time is money?" Fong Bujue ignored him. After he caught his breath, he walked up to Mr. Harper's bedside and handed him the mission item. "Ice beer, Mr. Harper." Hearing this, Harper raised an arm shakily and extended it in the direction of the beer. But the moment he took the can, his movement was as fast as lightning, just like when he grabbed Brother Jew's wrist. Harper opened the can of cold beer with one hand, opened his mouth, and gulped it down in one gulp. The old man let out a long sigh of relief. Burp. He burped again. Fong Bujue stood beside the bed, watching and waiting silently. When he passed the beer to Harper, he switched to the game menu and confirmed that the side mission had been ticked off. "Thank you, young man." After a while, Harper finally said, "Thank you." For a few seconds, Brother Jew really suspected that the man was not going to give him the reward. Huh. Feng Bujua chuckled. Of course, it was just a chuckle. He would not say something like, "This is what I should do. Here, this is my thank you gift." Harper took out a key from under his pillow and handed it to Brother Jew. Again, Feng Bujua wanted to vomit when he saw the key. He accepted the so-called reward and studied it closely. Item name: key to the director's room. Item type: plot. Item quality: normal function. Open the door to the director's room can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. Running an errand for an old man is what you should do. Ah, if this game could load, I would have hugged Oink's leg and begged him to help me kill Chad. Then I would have found a random corner in the corridor to lie down for the whole night. Feng Bujua read the item description and grumbled under his breath. By the way, the director's room should be on the 3rd floor, right? Feng Bujua mumbled as he pocketed the key. Yes, Mr. Harper replied. The director's room is on the southern side of the 3rd floor. Oh, when Feng Bujua heard that, he thought that he had triggered another mission. So he added, "Since you're giving me this key, do you need me to go to the director's room to do something for you?" Unfortunately, he was overthinking. Harper's reply soon changed to, "The beer is so delicious. Tisk." Feng Bujua scoffed. "You're just giving me a hint about the location of the director's room? Current quest has been changed. Main quest has been updated." At that moment, the system announced. Brother Jew was stunned. The main quest has been changed. He quickly opened the menu and looked at the quest tab. The original main quest, stay at your job and survive until dawn, had been crossed out and replaced with a new instruction. Defeat the director and escape from the hospital. Feng Bujua looked at this line of words and immediately laughed. He felt like he had taken the initiative. "What are you laughing at? Go find my key." Victor's high-pitched voice started to chatter again. "You're talking about this?" Feng Bujua smiled mysteriously. He took out Victor's key from his pocket and waved it at the man. "Ah, yes, give it to me." Victor reached out his hands like a child asking for a toy. "Humph!" Brother Jew scoffed. "I know your secret, you despicable opportunist." He casually walked toward the door, just in case. "Ergo-2, is it? Ha! It's cheap to make, but it's a huge threat to the alcohol-loving races. Are you trying to blackmail me?" Victor was indeed a goblin. He was very perceptive in this aspect. "If I were you," Feng Bujua did not answer the question directly. Instead, he said, "When I obtain a unique resource that can make me rich, I'll spend a lot of money to hire a powerful magician to add an indestructible magical barrier to my wine cellar." As he spoke, he waved the key twice. Only a unique magical key can open the door. And this key, I'll carry it with me. He paused and looked at Victor aggressively. "In other words, I don't have a key in my hand. I have your entire stock of Ergo-2 and the recipe to brew this wine." These words were not based on any evidence. In fact, Brother Jew guessed it from the remarks of Blood Corpse's Must Die and Victor's key, as well as the settings of the Monster Kingdom. But he seemed to have guessed correctly. "You scoundrel. You win. What do you want?" Victor actually acquiesced. Hearing that, Feng Bujua was overjoyed, but on the surface, he still asked probingly, "What do you have?" "I have the teleport stone to the 3rd floor of the hospital," Victor replied. "Huh?" Feng Bujua was taken aback. After a second, he understood that the teleport stone must be the reward of the side mission. "What else?" "Money," Victor replied. "Do you want anything else?" His expression changed slightly. "Speaking of which, I have a niece. She said that she doesn't mind marrying another race. Equipment. Equipment, 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 equipment." Feng Bujua roared. "Are you crazy?" Victor replied. "How can I have equipment? I'm in the business of reselling. When I get the item, I'll find the buyer and sell it in less than half a day. I only have money with me. I don't keep any stolen goods." "Oh no, I mean goods." "What's the use of money?" Feng Bujua roared. He was right. Just like the note on the coin said, the money of the Monster Kingdom was a very unreliable currency. "Okay, you want things, right? Victor said as he took out 2 items from his bedside table and handed them over with both hands. I only have this and the teleport stone. Do you want to trade? TSK. After all this time, you just want to take one more item. Phone Bujua said. Forget it. It's better than nothing. Trade, of course. Phone Bujua replied without hesitation. I have no use for your key, he said as he took 2 steps forward and exchanged the items in his hands with Victor. Oomph. You scoundrel. I'll complain to you. Victor grumbled and put the key into his pocket. The Earl laughed at Victor's misfortune. Haha, you profiteer. This is retribution. Then, the 2 of them started to quarrel once again. Phone Bujua, after reading the description of the 2 items in his hands, walked out of the room. Before going to the 3rd floor, he still had one more side mission to do. Since the other mission lines had pointed to the same target, the Dean, then the reward he got from the Earl should also be related to completing the main mission. He cannot let it go. Chapter 515. After staying in room 216 for a while, Han Fei did not have to worry about running into Chad for the time being. Therefore, Phone Bujua slowed down his pace. To make a long story short, 10 minutes later, he walked back into the elevator and pressed the button marked B1. The elevator door slowly closed with a rumbling sound. Not long after, the door opened again. In front of the door was a corridor that was only 5 meters long, and on the other side was a thick metal door. Why does it feel like a bank vault? Phone Bujua mumbled as he walked out of the elevator. As he walked from the elevator to the door of the blood bank, he seemed to have figured something out. He suddenly smiled. That's right. In the kingdom of monsters, things like blood have to be taken care of. Soon, Phone Bujua took out the key and opened the door of the blood bank. Before he walked in, he heard someone speak from inside. Who is it? The voice of this person was very unique. It was like the cry of an owl. Even though it was just a short sentence, there was still a strange, coo-coo sound coming from his throat. That's me. Phone Bujua's reaction was so fast. He answered without even thinking, Lester. Oh. The speaker answered casually. As Brother Ju replied, he poked his head into the room to look. Behind the metal door was a space of about 200 square meters. Compared to the other rooms in the hospital, this place was surprisingly spacious. There was only one desk in the middle of the blood bank. The cryogenic cabinets that store blood were arranged neatly around the room, leaning against the wall. At that moment, the person sitting at the desk was slowly flipping through a magazine. He seemed to be used to Lester's visit. Phone Bujua walked through the door and looked at the surroundings. Because we are underground, the space is spacious. You're on duty today. The person sitting at the desk spoke again. After getting closer, Phone Bujua noticed that this fellow was also an NPC with a very strange appearance. This person's face could be divided into 3 layers. First, the skin at the bottom layer had a rock-like texture. It was bumpy and gave off a faint glow. Then, on this layer of skin, there was a thin layer of light green hair that looked quite soft. Finally, on the outer layer of his face, there was a layer of fence-like substance that covered his face. Its texture was very similar to a human's fingernails. When Phone Bujua saw this person's face, 3 sentences immediately popped up in his mind. What is your purpose for coming to Earth? Is this performance art? Are you itchy? Of course, he wouldn't say those words out loud. Yes, it's me. Brother Ju quickly glanced at Frank's badge and said, How was your night, Frank? It's still the same. Frank replied, People like us who work shifts every 72 hours. Some monsters only sleep once every few days. It's the same all the time. As he spoke, he looked up and glanced at Phone Bujua. You came at the right time. Can you peel an apple for me? He pointed at an apple on the table. When Phone Bujua heard this request, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. He thought to himself, this guy doesn't know how to peel an apple himself? And how did he know that I have a folding knife on me? Although he was a little suspicious, in order not to give himself away, Phone Bujua still did as he was told. He took the apple, leaned against the edge of the desk, and started peeling the apple in front of a wastepaper basket. Thank you for troubling you every time, Frank said as he put down the magazine in his hand and took a document and pen from the desk. You're here to get blood for the count, right? Don't tell me this guy can read other people's minds. Phone Bujua thought to himself, "Impossible. Has he seen through my disguise?" Ah, yes. Brother Jew broke out in a cold sweat, but on the surface, he still looked very normal and responded in a calm tone. "Well, I just need to fill out a few documents." As Frank spoke, he lowered his head and got busy. Wait a moment. At this time, Fong Bujua noticed that Frank's left hand seemed to be disabled. His left hand had no fingers, only two short stones, meat to him, protruded out of his palm. Frank could barely use this hand to hold the paper, but he definitely couldn't hold the apple or the knife. "You're a good man, Lester," Frank said. "I don't know who will come to peel an apple for me after you leave." He said, shook his head, and sighed again. "Huh." Fong Bujue smiled and replied, "Perhaps other people have a different opinion. There are many people who wish for me to leave, right?" Brother Jew remembered very clearly that in the opening statement at the beginning of the script, it was mentioned, "No one likes you, Lester. The Human Resources Department has decided to fire you, and you will be replaced by a gentleman who is about to retire. Everyone thinks he could do a better job than you." "What are you talking about?" Frank raised his head, and his eyes gradually lit up. "You are the most popular employee here. Even though you often do things that are against the rules, you are always helping everyone. I heard that the director insisted on firing you, and everyone is very sad." "What?" Fong Bujue's hand that was peeling the apple stopped. His expression changed slightly, and he asked, "Wait, then, what about Chad? You should want me to leave, right? What's wrong with you today? Why are you saying something strange?" Frank replied with a confused expression. "You and Chad are best friends. From preschool to high school, you have always been best friends." He sighed slightly. "I know that after his sister passed away, Chad has been unable to walk out of the shadow of grief, and because of that, he has vented his anger on you. But I think you two will eventually reconcile." Hearing that, Fong Bujue's expression changed, and his mind spun. What's going on? This is different from the opening statement of the script. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. Wait, if the person who said that is the director. 2 minutes later, Fong Bujue finished peeling the apple and placed it in front of Frank. He smiled and said, "It's done, buddy." Frank said, "I still need to work here for a while." He tilted his head slightly. "The bee blood is at the usual place, cabinet number 17. You can take 2 packs. "Okay," Fong Bujue answered, walked to the wall, opened the freezer, and took out 2 packs of bee blood. Then, he turned around and walked toward the door. By the way, I have a question." When Fong Bujue reached the door, he stopped and turned back. "You should know the date and time now, right, Frank?" This was obvious. A person who worked in an underground blood bank, who only worked 1 shift every 72 hours, had to have something to keep track of time. Otherwise, if the person who took over his shift never showed up, he might unknowingly continue to stay there. Frank did not look at any clock or device. His eyes suddenly turned serious. December 6th, 3:30 a.m. He paused and raised his head to look Brother Jew in the eyes. "Lester, you really don't have much time left." He was not the first person, or ghost, to remind Lester to pay attention to the time, but the system did not give any relevant prompt. "I will try my best, don't worry." Fong Bujue was silent for 2 seconds. Before he left, he said, "You take care." At that moment, Brother Jew's eyes were solemn. He seemed to have realized something. He hurried into the elevator and returned to the 2nd floor. Then he started to run down the corridor. As expected, Fong Bujue mumbled as he ran. When I realized the physiological reaction appeared, he lowered his head to look at his hand. His whole palm had turned purplish black. Phew! He tried to exhale, and white mist appeared. Indeed, there is not much time left. Fong Bujue said, "Currently, the items whose functions are still unknown are a white sock, a spare key that I don't know how to open a door, and a small mirror. Hopefully, they will come in handy." He glanced at his palm again. Phew! After handing in this bloody mission, no matter what, I have to go up to the 3rd floor. Based on the current situation, I can hold on for another hour, and Lester's body will die. Chapter 516. After Fong Bujue rushed out of the elevator, he started to run down the corridor. But to his surprise, just as he turned the corner, something unexpected happened. The corridor in front of him was filled with ghostly shadows. Where did they come from? Fong Bujua looked at these translucent figures and thought to himself, the lights are still on, and I'm not wearing sunglasses. So, how come I can see them? He had his suspicions, but he did not stop running. He could not afford to waste any more time. Even if there was something wrong, he had to force his way through. The ghosts naturally noticed Brother Ju's appearance, and they reacted immediately. They all turned their faces around and groaned incoherently. At the same time, their bodies started to move at a very slow frequency. They reached out their arms toward Brother Ju as if they were trying to pull him back. No way. Fong Bujue only took a few steps before he realized something was wrong. They can affect me now. He used the term affect instead of touch, which meant that the ghost did not have the ability to come into physical contact with him, but they were not completely unaffected. At that moment, when Fong Bujua passed through the translucent ghosts, there was an obvious sense of obstruction. This feeling was like swimming on land. Each ghost was like an invisible and heavy cloud of air. Once a player came into contact with them, they would slow down the player. Looks like there's not much time left. Fong Bujua tried his best to focus. As he resisted the chill that came from his body, he twisted and turned among the ghosts to maintain his speed. The closer Lester's body is to death, the more obvious the influence these ghosts will have on me, until I become one of them. Fortunately, not every corridor was filled with ghosts. After this part of the corridor, the situation in the surroundings became much better. Even though there were still one or two scattered ghosts blocking the way, as long as there were not many of them, they would not slow down Brother Ju. After running for 10 minutes, Fong Bujue came to the door of room 216. He pushed the door open and saw Victor and the Earl had left the bed and were standing by the window. They were fighting a strange shadow that was poking its body out from the window. "Ah, it's you. Come help me." When Victor heard the sound of the door opening, he glanced at the door from the corner of his eyes and shouted. The Earl added, "Don't forget to close the door." Fong Bujua did not say anything. He slammed the door shut and strode forward. In these few seconds, Brother Ju's eyes were fixed on the strange shadow that poked its head out from the window. It was a monster in a coarse green robe and had a hideous face. Its head was like a broken bag. It had no hair, no ears, and no nose. Its eyes and mouth were like 3 black holes. What should I do? Even though Fong Bujua was fast, he did not have any skills, and the only equipment he had was a cleaver. Furthermore, only the upper half of the monster's body was outside the window, and it was entangled with the Count and Victor. Even if Fong Bujua wanted to cut it down, it would not be easy. "You idiot, with the very thing you just extorted from me," cried Victor. "So that's how it is," Fong Bujua said. "So that's the setting." Hearing Victor's hint, he seemed to have understood something instantly. Item name: Moonlight Bomb. Item type: consumable quality, excellent special effect, create a moonlight explosion. Remark: made with elfin craftsmanship, it will explode upon impact. After the explosion, the moonlight stored inside the bomb will be released. Even though this thing was defined as a consumable from the special effect and remark, it was most likely meant to be used in this scenario. The question was, where should it be used? At that moment, that question was easily answered. Before Victor finished, Fong Bujue put on the sunglasses and tossed the bomb at him. With a bang, there was an explosion of light. Then, an incomparably mournful wail was heard. This burst of light was very strange. It was clearly a very strong light, but it did not irritate the eyes. The Earl and Victor were not affected. They did not even close their eyes. They only took a few steps back, away from the monster that started to spontaneously combusted after being hit by the moonlight. Looks like I've overdone it. Fong Bujua thought to himself as he looked at the scene before him. Brother Ju retraced the plot in his mind, and he soon understood. If he had not extorted Victor's key when he handed over the mission, when he returned to this room, the battle would have already ended, and he would not have needed to be there. Based on what he had done, it would have been more difficult. Moonlight Bomb was not an item that he had to get. He would only have the chance to use it when he had all the flags ready. At the very least, he had to fulfill the conditions of successfully extorting Victor, completed Victor and Harper's mission, and did not go to the blood bank, did not go to the third floor, and completed the deal with the little girl. Only then would he be able to reach this point and achieve the plot branch of the player kills the mirror demon with his own hands. Fong Bujue was able to follow his usual style of doing things and unintentionally reach this point. He had to admit that he was quite capable. He's trying to escape. Find a mirror and suck him in. Suddenly, there was another shout. It was Victor's shrill voice. At the same time, the burning body of the mirror demon was gradually retreating back into the window. The monster seemed to be struggling at death's door and was trying to escape back into the mirror. "Let me do it," Fong Bujue said as he took out a small mirror from his pocket and raised his hand to look at the mirror demon. As he expected, once the mirror shone on the mirror demon's body, the monster was unable to move. He was stuck on the window and slowly turned into ashes. The wailing gradually disappeared, and the room returned to silence. The Count and Victor both walked slowly back to their beds, and they both let out a long sigh of relief at the same time. Fong Bujue also caught his breath and said, "The one who smiled at me earlier and created the illusion of the bloody handprint was him, right?" "Hey, buddy, I smell blood," the Count said. "You brought the stuff, right? I'm thirsty." Fong Bujue hurried over and handed the 2 packs of Type B blood that he took from the blood bank to the Count. The Count was a straightforward person. As if he knew that his brother Ju was in a hurry. After accepting the blood packs, he quickly took out the reward from his patient's pocket and handed it over. The reward this time was a white sock. Yes, there was only one, and it did not even have an item description. It felt like trash. However, Fong Bujue knew the use of this item. He took out the other sock from his pocket and held both of them in his hands. As he expected, they were of the same design and color. Furthermore, the item description page appeared when the sock was put together. Item name, a pair of thermal cotton socks. Item type, plot. Item quality, normal function, greatly reduces the effect of freezing on the body. Can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. It is very important to keep your feet warm. Of course, you don't have to put it on. The remark was correct. There was no need to put it on because when the 2 socks were placed together, the chill around Fong Bujue had disappeared. Obviously, this pair of socks was just a symbolic presence in this space. It could make Lester feel better, but it would not prolong the survival of his body. "Okay, guys, I still have something else to do." After handing the quest, Fong Bujue took out the teleportation stone to the 3rd floor and prepared to go up. "Good luck, buddy. You did well earlier, but I will still file a complaint against you. The beer is so delicious." The 3 weirdos in a room said their lines as a response to the player. Several seconds later, Fong Bujue activated the item in his hand. He saw a white light flash before his eyes, and in the blink of an eye, the scenery around him changed. The teleportation stone in his hand disappeared after it was used. That was not a good sign. The 3rd floor of the hospital was obviously isolated from the other floors. There was no staircase that led to this place on the 2nd floor, and the elevator did not connect to this place. The only teleportation stone was one way. All of this proved one thing. After reaching this floor, it was not far from the boss battle. "Okay, Mr. Director." Fong Bujue took out the cleaver and walked forward. "Your big brother is here." The teleportation stone had a fixed destination. At that moment, there was a wall 3 meters behind Brother Ju, and there was no fork in the road. It was just a long corridor that stretched out in a straight line. Both sides of the corridor were snow-white walls. For the time being, he couldn't see the door or any other reference point. Fong Bujue walked for about 100 meters and finally found a door on his right. Seems to be locked. When he grabbed the door handle, the system notification appeared. Could this be the director's office? Fong Bujue mumbled to himself as he took out the key to the director's office. He tried to insert it into the keyhole, but it could not be inserted. "I knew it. It really isn't." He immediately took out another key, which was the backup key that Lester had secretly made. This time it worked. After opening the door, Fong Bujue saw something unbelievable. Behind the door was not a room, but a small space about 3 meters long, and 3 meters away there was another door. Fong Bujue walked in cautiously and soon grabbed the handle of the door behind him. The system notification appeared again. This exit will allow you to leave the hospital directly. Are you sure you want to leave now? Oh, so convenient. Naturally, Fong Bujue did not open the door. He pulled his hand back and mumbled, "After killing the director, I can leave the hospital from here, right?" As he spoke, he turned around and prepared to return to the corridor. Unexpectedly, a second later, he heard another notification. This room can only be entered once. Once you leave this room, the room will disappear. What? Fong Bujue was shocked. This is a trap, isn't it? To set up a room like this on the path to the boss battle, any normal person would come in. But after I came in, you told me that this is a one-time use. Brother Ju could only stand in the small, enclosed space. He scratched his chin and tried to come up with a solution. The mission clearly states that I have to kill the director before leaving the hospital. If I leave through this door now, the main mission will definitely fail. But if I leave this place and go find the director, this room will disappear. He thought about it and decided not to open the door. If he did, he would definitely fail, but if he did not open the door, there was still a ray of hope. He could find another way to escape after killing the director. Open the door, and you'll be reborn. Suddenly, the system notification appeared again. Fong Bujue was startled for 2 seconds when he heard that. Then he laughed, a cold laugh. Ha ha ha. The cold laugh slowly turned into laughter. Ha ha. The laughter turned into a maniacal laugh, and there was a clear sense of mockery in the laughter. Before the laughter stopped, Brother Ju walked out of the room and returned to the corridor. With a swing of his arm, he closed the door beside him. That's like drawing legs on a snake. Mr. Dean. He yelled at the empty corridor and ran away. At this time, Fong Bujue's eyes were filled with determination. After running for 3 minutes, he saw the other end of the corridor. There was a door made of gold. With the key in his left hand and the cleaver in his right, Fong Bujue walked forward without hesitation. He inserted the director's office key into the keyhole of the door and pushed it open. The next second, a blinding golden light burst out. The room that appeared before Brother Ju was more spacious than the cafeteria on the first floor. The floor was covered in gold bricks, and large oil paintings hung on the 4 walls. There were art decorations in the corner, and there was even a chandelier on the ceiling. Next to the window was an office desk that faced south, and opposite the desk was a window. Even though it was dark outside the window, the person who sat in the chair was still facing the window, leisurely smoking a cigar. You just refuse to give up, don't you, traveler from another world? The director said as he turned the chair around. The hospital director had the appearance of a human being. He was about 1.7 meters tall, had a beer belly, was balding, and wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He wasn't wearing any clothes, but he was wearing something else. It was unclear whether it was a stream of consciousness representation or there was indeed such a race in the Monster Kingdom. In any case, the director's skin was covered with a layer of copper coins. They were round and square holes, and they were thick and shiny. You are quite sharp. Fong Bujue narrowed his eyes and looked at the man. I know someone who can interfere with the system voice. He seemed to be referring to Billy. I didn't expect there to be more than one. If I didn't say that last sentence, perhaps you would have succeeded, the director said as he puffed out the smoke. Oh, you mean open that door, and you'll be reborn, right? Fong Bujue added. Huh, actually, it doesn't matter. Before you said that, I had already decided not to open that door. He paused for a moment and shrugged. But it's still meaningful for you to say that out loud. He laughed mockingly. At least you let me know 2 things. First, you're afraid of me. Second, you're an idiot. Humph. Afraid of you? Why would I be afraid of you? The director replied. Do you think you could defeat me with that cleaver of yours? It's too late for that, idiot. Fong Bujue added. When I first arrived at this scenario, your lack of confidence was already showing. He smiled. Your opening statement was indeed confusing. You did not lie about Lester's personality. He is indeed an open-minded person. But when you said no one likes him, That is very strange. He titled his head. If no one likes him, then based on the fact that he harassed the nurses and female doctors, you could have fired him, couldn't you? When someone complained about him for sexual harassment, you could have fired him immediately. Fong Bujue started to pace back and forth in the room like he was putting on a detective show. After I met Jenny, I was even more certain that there was no such thing as harassment. At most, it was flirting. The mocking smile on his face became more obvious. Now that I look at your opening statement, I can see a lot of jealousy in it. Things like your handsome face and your lack of self-control. Ha! Mr. Director, I think you are so jealous that you have lost your mind. The director's expression turned ugly, and the face that was covered by the copper plate was already twisted. But Fong Bujue was far from done. He continued aggressively. Yes, Lester has done many things that do not follow the rules, but for the other employees and patients of the hospital, that is a good thing. Or perhaps we can use a word, care. That is something that people like you will not understand. He shook his head. Because he is so popular with everyone, it is very difficult for you to fire him. Therefore, your resentment toward him has only grown. He turned around and raised a finger. However, you are the director after all. Under your constant pressure, the HR department compromised. Finally, you can get rid of that annoying kid. Perhaps it is fate. Lester's last night shift is on December 5th. Fong Bujue paused for a few seconds and continued with a smile. Just as you said, he often fails to arrive on time, so this time it is the same. He is late again. His eyes changed slightly, and he met the director's gaze. And this time, being late has saved him, stopping him at the gates of hell. The director's face was twisted, and he said in a low voice, "Humph, are you sure?" "Of course I am." Fong Bujue did not wait for the director to finish. On the way here, already understood. He reached out and pointed behind him. The room earlier, the so-called door to leave the hospital, was not prepared for Lester at all. His expression turned serious. That was a door for you to escape. Chapter 517. But that door cannot be opened by you. Fong Bujue continued. You have to ask Lester to open it. Who are you? The hospital director asked darkly. I have met travelers from another dimension before, but you are definitely not a normal character. Humph. Even a normal person can see through your trick. Fong Bujue laughed. It is because I've been thinking too much that I have overlooked something. He pointed at his nose. I should have noticed that smell of yours a long time ago. What did you say? The hospital director asked. You don't know, do you? Fong Bujue continued. No wonder. Just like how most people are unable to notice that they have bad breath, you have no idea that you've been giving off the stench of copper. He paused for a moment and said, Actually, when I walked out of the elevator, I already smelled something, but the smell of disinfectant in the hospital was very strong, so the smell of money on your body was covered up. Fong Bujue paused and took several steps closer to the hospital director's desk. So far, the interference you can do on the first and second floors is very limited, because there are many things that even you are afraid of there, like the little girl in room 125. He paused for a second and wagged his finger to point at the man's face. So, you are hiding here and trying to mislead me into falling into your trap. He paused for a while like he was recalling some details, but there are not many opportunities for you to fake the system's voice. 5 seconds later, Brother Ju finished his thought and started to explain in a logical manner. First, you cannot fake the hints related to the mission. After all, you cannot change the content in my mission tab. Second, hints like cannot be opened and appears to be locked will be given by the system itself. You have no room to interrupt. Therefore, you can only mislead me when there is no change to the mission or no real system notification. Brother Ju raised 4 fingers. The first time was when I first entered the scenario. If my guess is not wrong, the real introduction of this scenario is the scary video on the screen. There is no narration at all. Without a doubt, you were the one who added all those lines. He put down a finger and continued. The second time was when I was about to enter the pediatric ward. You made up a story about a dangerous darkness ahead. Do you really want to go? This sentence. Now that I think about it, the context and the timing of the prompt felt slightly out of place. It's a pity that I didn't consider the hypothesis that someone was impersonating the system voice. He shook his head, as if he was very dissatisfied with his performance. Actually, that area can be entered without a flashlight. Although the corridor there is dark, there's a faint light in each room. It's not impossible to go in the dark. It was just that, if he went in directly, the process of finding the 2 X-rays might be more difficult. Furthermore, I had to bring the 2 X-rays out to see the password recorded on them. In any case, the purpose of your second talk was to make me go find the lighting equipment. In other words, it was to lead me to the security room. Yes, the things inside the cupboard are useful, but none of them are necessary. Theoretically speaking, in this scenario, there are only 2 missions that I have to complete, and they are Victor and Mr. Harper's missions. I can ignore the other events and items related to them. But why would you lead me to a place that I might not even want to go? The reason is simple. You added something inside my cupboard, and that is the so-called backup key. He smiled. Using the term backup key that Lester secretly made on the description of the key is indeed a good psychological hint. It is as if the room corresponding to this key is extremely safe and is a place that Lester will try his best to enter no matter what. That way, it laid the foundation for the scene in the corridor. He licked his lips and put down the 3rd finger. And the 3rd time, you pretended to be the system's voice, which was just now. Humph. We saw the result. He titled his head and said smugly, but a fake is still a fake. The route that you pointed out conflicted with the mission that the system gave me. Seeing that his plan was about to fail, he had no choice but to say a few more unnecessary words in his desperation. In the end, you expose yourself completely. The director removed the gold-rimmed glasses from his nose and placed them on the table. He looked directly at his brother Jew and said, "You listed it 3 times, so why did you raise 4 fingers?" When Fong Buja heard that, he immediately turned his hand 180 degrees to face the man with the back of his hand. The meaning of the remaining middle finger was self-explanatory. B****. The director gritted his teeth and stood up. "Don't think you've won, traveler from another dimension." His face twitched. "You have no idea what happened here. Your actions will only cause Lester's death." Personally, I think Fong Bujua was still calm. He continued, "This should be some kind of special space between yin and yang." He thought for a few seconds. Let's call it a boundary for now. At this point, he put down his middle finger. If I'm not mistaken, the hospital in the real world was destroyed by the avalanche 29 hours ago. He raised his finger to point at the director's nose. "Obviously, you are the greedy person that the girl mentioned. To save money, you even dared to forcibly purchase this cursed land. Then this hospital itself is 100% a shoddy construction." He opened his hands. When the avalanche came, this building would not have been able to withstand the impact and would collapse from top to bottom. He then pointed at himself. Only one person could have survived. That person who was late, because before he could walk through the hospital door, he was buried in the snow. But this is a cursed land. Leaving is easier said than done. Fong Bujua's expression shifted. All the earthbound spirits have a kind of instinct, which is to keep the living to accompany them. Yes, you're right. The director said. Now Lester's body is struggling to survive in the snow, and his soul is trapped in this boundary. He glared at Brother Jew with a strange gaze. The closer your consciousness is to the world of life, the clearer the pain coming from your body will be. And the closer Lester's body is to death, the more obvious the influence of the other spirits on you will be. He paused and said, "Soon, without me doing anything, you'll be torn into pieces by the other spirits here. Unless I walk into that door?" Fong Bujua interrupted him with a smile. "Mr. Director, I don't mind being frank with you. Your reincarnation trick will never work." He scoffed coldly. "I have seen through your plan a long time ago. You want Lester to open your door of life and use his body to return to the world of the living, right? Humph. This is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only will you escape from the gates of hell, you'll have Lester as your scapegoat and you'll be able to live again with his body. The principal's face, which was full of copper marks, was green and purple. He was already angry from embarrassment and was at the end of his rope. He could explode at any time. But Feng Bujue was the kind of person who would take advantage of the situation. He would not leave any leeway for people or things that he hated. You really are a scumbag who is rotten to the core. You managed to turn into an evil spirit immediately after your death. You are much stronger than other people who died in the avalanche. Take the Earl and Victor, for example. They're like most spirits who have just died. They don't realize that they're already dead, even though their mental strength is stronger than those ghosts who have lived for many years. That's about it. But you're different. Once you breathe your last, you immediately gain the ability close to uniqueness. The way I see it, in time, you might be able to reach the height of Mr. Gudge, Freddy Gudge from the Nightmare on Elm Street. Before he finished, Feng Bujue was already standing before the office table and looking at the director across the table. Leaving you alive is a disaster. Chapter 518. Haven't I made myself clear enough? The hospital director laughed wickedly. With that cleaver in your hand, what do you plan to do? He roared angrily. You don't even belong to my world. Why don't you get the hell back to where you belong as soon as possible? Huh? With a clank, the cleaver came down and aimed at the hospital director's neck. Feng Bujue did not care what the man said. After all, the main mission stated that he had to kill the hospital director, so there had to be a way to defeat this boss. However, it was as if the blade had struck a piece of iron, and it bounced off forcefully. The copper plates on the hospital director's body were not just for decoration. When he was still alive, he was a monster with copper skin and iron bones. What the F***CK? Brother Ju cursed internally. Due to the excessive force, his arm was numb, and the cleaver in his hand cracked. Humph! Since you won't open the door for me, then you can die. The hospital director's large body jumped out from behind the table. He used his thick arms to strangle Feng Bujue's neck. He cursed, "When you fully turn into a ghost, I'll let you know the true meaning of pain." Ha ha! At this point, he started to laugh. You be ****. How dare you flirt with a nurse? How dare you be late? With every sentence, his grip tightened. How dare you sleep during the night shift? How dare you steal blood for the patients? The force from his neck caused Feng Bujue to feel suffocated, and his consciousness started to blur. This kind of mental pain would undoubtedly hasten Lester's death on a physical level. Once Brother Ju's life points hit 0, Lester would truly die. He would turn from a living creature into a ghost. When that happened, the player's consciousness would be transferred, and Lester's fate was self-explanatory. That's all my money. Mine. The hospital director roared and continued to roar. Do you think I built this hospital for charity? To heal the wounded and save the dying? You be ****. This is a business. Do you understand? I want those who come here to be cursed so that they won't be able to leave this place. Until they die and the beds are empty, then I'll let those who are waiting in line to get in. Of course, it depends on who pays the most. He frowned and glared, and a disgusting smile appeared on his lips. Oh, by the way, your girlfriend, what's her name again? Fiona. She's Chad's dumb sister. How do you think she died? It's because your useless boyfriend and her useless brother can only afford the basic treatment fees. So I added something to her medicine to help her get rid of it in advance. At this moment, the dean had already lost his rationality. He had already forgotten that he was talking to a traveler from another world. When he grabbed Feng Bujue's neck, the years of hatred finally exploded. Looking at Lester's face, he could not help himself from spewing out the venomous words that had been brewing for years. This is not right. If this continues, I'll die. In this dangerous situation, Brother Bujue tried his best to come up with a solution. Did I trigger some kind of death flag in the game earlier? How am I supposed to kill this boss? This guy is far stronger than me. He checked the game menu again. His inventory and skill bar were still locked, and he could not use his sorcery weapon. This was really a hopeless situation. Seeing his life points drop below 20%, and he was about to enter the state of near death. Finally, something happened. Clang! The gold tiles on the floor were pierced through by a powerful force. An arm as thick as a thigh shot out from under the tiles and grabbed the hospital director's ankle accurately. F***CK. Do I have to wait until I'm about to die to trigger this scenario? Feng Buju asked. The next second, the hospital director let go of Lester. He lowered his head in fear and yelled, "Who is it? This is impossible." As he yelled, he bent down to punch the giant arm. But his attack was like scratching an itch through a boot. It was basically useless. Then there was a series of clattering noises. The owner of the arm had broken through the floor and climbed up to this floor. "You son of a b******. Chad cursed in his own head. He flipped himself up, steadied himself, and picked the hospital director up with one hand. "I will make you pay." Bang, bang, bang. Fists the size of casseroles landed on the hospital director's body. It was like punching a sandbag, but the sound was more like a hammer hitting a drum. "You brainless piece of trash." The hospital director was hung upside down by Chad. He was obviously injured, and cracks appeared all over his body. "Yes, I am a piece of trash," Chad replied. "I was not smart since I was young, and I was always bullied. But my best friend never laughed at me, and neither did my sister. They were always by my side to support me, and they went through thick and thin with me. We are all very ordinary people with little income and no social status. But we live happily, unlike people like you, who hurt others for your own selfish desires." At this point, Chad raised his arms and lifted the hospital director above his head. He yelled, "In this world, I only have 2 family members. You've already killed one, and I will not let you kill a second one." With a furious roar, Chad pulled with all his might and tore the hospital director's body apart. For a moment, Feng Bujua thought he was safe, but a cloud of black smoke poured out from the hospital director's torn body, and it was accompanied by a terrifying roar. "I will take you down with me." It looked like this boss could make one last counterattack. "Run." The other head on Chad's shoulder turned to yell at Feng Bujua. It was probably his sister, Fiona. Chad added, "I'll hold him off. Let's go." "Current quest has been changed. Main quest has been updated," the system said. Feng Bujue opened the game menu and glanced at it. The main quest in the quest tab had been changed to a simple and concise title: Escape from the Hospital. At this point, there was no reason to hesitate. Brother Ju leaped forward and slid into the hole in the ground. This hole was the only way out of the 3rd floor. He had no other choice. Even if he would die if he jumped down, he had to. Of course, the system would not have designed the scenario to be like that. Therefore, after falling for 2 to 3 meters, he landed safely. His life points did not decrease at all. "Thank you, Chad." Chad. After Brother Ju landed, he immediately raised his head to yell. Once he lifted his head, he saw something very scary. A large cloud of black mist flowed down from the hole in the ceiling like it was alive, and it was closing in on him. "Stay alive, Lester." "Lester." Chad and his sister's voices came from above at the same time, but they were quickly swallowed by the black mist. Feng Bujue took to his heels and sprinted forward. At that moment, he did not care about the exhaustion of his stamina points. He just needed to rush toward the 1st floor lobby. Taking the elevator is definitely impossible. Feng Bujue did not panic. In just a few seconds, he had identified his location, and he quickly planned an escape route in his mind. Then, the one-way corridor that leads to the 1st floor is... He ran fast, but the black mist behind him did not slow down either. The hospital director's shrill howl came out from the black mist. "Don't you dare run. You little be ****starred. F****CK off. You piece of ***T. Feng Bujue was not going to lose the argument. Even as he ran for his life, he did not forget to retort. He sprinted like that for 1 minute, and he was close to the one-way corridor that led to the 2nd floor. "I just need to turn the corner, and I'll be on the 1st floor." Feng Bujue gave himself a mental pep talk. Now, he didn't need some psychological hints like that. This was because he could clearly feel that Lester's body was about to collapse. Unexpectedly, when he turned the corner of the corridor in front of him, another despairing scene appeared in front of him. In this corridor, there were actually a large number of ghostly figures. Furthermore, the bodies of these ghostly figures were already close to being corporeal. Chapter 519. Their ghastly faces, their claws that were like hooks, and the ghosts wailed as they rushed at Feng Bujue. Even if the people in the corridor were not ghosts, but normal citizens of the monster kingdom, Feng Bujue would not be able to handle them. Furthermore, there was still the black fog chasing after him. If he was stopped, he would soon be swallowed by the director's evil spirit. While he was daydreaming, the group of ghosts was just inches away, and Brother Ju swallowed his saliva. That is impossible. Yes, it was impossible to expect Lester to solve the problem himself, but Goblin Tornado Kick, Night Demon Flying Strike. Suddenly, two strange shadows flashed out from the wall. One of them had a shrill voice while the other had a deep voice. Both of them used their unique monster skills and blasted the group of ghosts in front of Feng Bujue to the ground. "Run, buddy," the Earl shouted. "We'll hold them off. I will still complain about you, you villain. You scoundrel," Victor yelled. The intrusion of these two uninvited guests instantly cleared a path for Brother Ju. "Thank you," Feng Bujue replied as he brushed past the two. The black fog followed closely behind. The director's voice rang out from the fog. "Don't block the way." But the two figures in the corridor, one tall and one short, didn't move a single step. Victor sneered. "Fake aristocrat. Where did you copy that move from?" The Earl laughed as well. "Unscrupulous businessman. How can you call that tornado kick?" Until the moment they were engulfed by the black fog, they were still engaged in a war of words, refusing to give way to each other. On the other side, Brother Ju had successfully passed through the one-way corridor. He used the gravitational pull to jump to the first floor. As soon as he landed, he let out a scream. It was not that Brother Ju had accidentally sprained his ankle, but something had bitten his ankle. Feng Bujue lowered his head to look and saw a ghost baby with a green body and sharp fangs curling around his calf. "Humph!" Seeing this, Brother Ju's expression chilled. "Looks like you are not satisfied with the food." He showed no mercy. He raised his leg and kicked the monster away. However, when he got rid of one, he turned around and saw a whole corridor of monsters behind him. "Ja!" Dozens of ghost babies screamed at Feng Bujue at the same time. It sounded like crying and roaring, and it sent chills down his spine. You can't run away." The black fog that was the director chased after him again. "I told you, as your consciousness changes, everything here will change. There are countless earthbound spirits on this land. They won't let you escape back to the world of the living." Before he finished, the black fog rushed down from the corridor and poured down on Feng Bujue's head. In the time it took for a spark to fly, but a white smoke ring shot through the air like a real cannonball, scattering the falling black fog. Foo-foo. A soul-stirring sound of blowing smoke suddenly blew over. A black baby with a long horn on his head appeared at the other end of the corridor. He used a rhythmic tone and a clear accent to scold. "You Mardell faker!" He raised a short right hand and pointed at the ceiling. "Kill him." With Martin's order, the ghost babies in the corridor changed their target. They climbed up the wall like cockroaches and rushed up the corridor. Feng Bujue saw that the path ahead was clear. Without hesitation, he ran. The black fog that had been dispersed had reformed within a few seconds, and it continued to pour out from the top. "Old smoker, you're a mantis trying to stop a chariot." When Martin heard that, he scoffed. Like a hip-hop rapper, he hurled another string of English slang and swear words at the director. It was as nasty as it could get. Even Brother Ju managed to pick up a few new vocabulary words from it. "Buddy, thanks for the cigarette," Feng Bujue said as he passed by Martin. "You're welcome," Feng Bujue replied and continued to move forward. At that moment, Brother Ju finally understood. There was another meaning to the side quests in this scenario. The number of side quests completed would determine the difficulty of the escape scenario. If he had only completed the 2 side quests, there would not have been so many NPCs coming to help him. If that's the case, Mr. Harper should be here to help, right? Feng Bujue ran toward the lobby and thought to himself, Jenny, Frank, and the little girl scenarios are not considered side quests, so they might not show up. And the White Wolf Tribe chef in the kitchen has been killed, and I don't have much interaction with him. Looks like if not for Oink's sudden appearance, I might have had an extra helper. At that moment, he was still thinking about what had happened earlier and analyzing the things that he had missed and the things that were about to happen. This was definitely a sign of OCD. Of course, it was also possible that he was just troubled by the fact that he had not used the food card and Black Rabbit creamy candy that he had obtained. "Hi, young man." As he expected, when he was close to the hospital lobby, Mr. Harper's figure appeared. The old man was wearing a patient's garb and stood in the middle of the corridor. His body was still covered in needle-like holes, but there was no tube attached to his body. "You seem to be in trouble," Mr. Harper said after greeting Brother Jew. When Feng Bujua heard that, he gasped internally. "No way, right? It's already caught up to me?" He turned to look, and indeed, the black fog had returned. "Yes, it's big trouble," Brother Jew answered as he picked up his pace. His running speed had slowed down. Firstly, it was because he couldn't take it anymore. Secondly, it was because of the injury on his ankle. The wound caused by the ghost baby's bite was much more serious than he had imagined. "That's the Dean, right?" Mr. Harper's pierced eyeballs stared straight at the black fog. "I understand. Leave this to me, young man." "Ah, thank you." Feng Bujua ran past the old man and turned to reply. "Harper, you will be ****starred. The director's roar came from the black fog again. "Get out of my way." Mr. Harper ignored him. The old man steadied himself in the middle of the corridor and spread his arms. "I told you, you be ****starred. At this point, the needle-like holes on his body started to leak black liquid. "I hate Dr. Pepper the most." Bang! There was a loud noise. It was as if a can the size of a water tank had been opened after being shaken violently. Feng Bujue, who had already run some distance, thought that Harper had self-destructed. He could not help but turn back to look. He saw a huge amount of black liquid gushing out from the needle-like holes on Mr. Harper's body and colliding with the black fog that was the director. For a moment, the two black substances collided in the corridor. One was like a tornado, the other was like a tidal wave. Harper and the director were evenly matched. At this time, Feng Bujue finally reached the last corner before the lobby. "I'm almost at my limit." Brother June knew in his heart that Lester was about to die. The sock in his pocket could no longer suppress the erosion of the cold. This was a sign that his consciousness was about to collapse. In addition, the pain from the wound on his foot, the soreness from running, and the huge pressure on his heart and lungs all hinted that the player was about to reach the end of his life. Ha-ha! Ha-ha! Brother Jew's speed could only reach the level of brisk walking. He held the wall and staggered as he turned the last corner. The hospital lobby was right before his eyes. The door was just 20 meters away. He could even see a weak ray of sunlight coming in through the door. However, the hospital lobby that was more than 200 square meters in size was already filled with ghosts. In the eyes of Lester, they were no different from living people. They were all corporeal. To put it simply, the road ahead was impenetrable. Ha! Ha ha! Seeing this, Feng Bujue actually laughed. He took a deep breath and yelled at the people in front of him, "Everyone, how about you give me a way out?" As he said that, he took a step forward. However, the ghosts only stood where they were and looked at him. They had no intention of moving out of the way. "I'm warning you." Brother Jew refused to admit defeat. Even though there was no other way, he still said confidently, "My anger meter has been full for a long time. Don't force me to activate unparalleled and charge out." He said it like it was true, but unfortunately, it was useless. "Let him go." Suddenly, the voice of the little girl came from behind Brother Jew. Feng Bujue was startled and quickly turned around. Then, he saw a bright red ghost shadow. The newcomer was no doubt the little girl from room 125. At this time, she had really combed her hair into 2 ponytails. Her scary 8-eyed monster face was also revealed. However, in this kind of environment where ghosts gathered and none of them looked like humans, what kind of appearance was considered scary was debatable, The little girl glanced at Feng Bujue and then said to the group of ghosts, "Can save all of us." The two short sentences were spoken in a calm tone, but it seemed to have a magical power that drove the earthbound spirits to move. In less than 2 seconds, the ghosts neatly retreated to the sides. A path was cleared among the ghosts that led to the door. "Why did you come to help me?" Feng Bujue turned around and asked. "You are also an earthbound spirit here. Even if you are not controlled by the spirit's instinct, there is no reason." "No, I am not." The little girl interrupted Brother Jew. "I am not a living spirit. I have never been one." She continued, "This place was originally a spirit gathering place, and I am the guardian spirit here. Until one day, a god who was more powerful than me came here and maliciously left behind curse." She paused. "Actually, it is not this land that is cursed. It is I who is trapped here." She raised her hand and pointed at the door. "Go, traveler from another dimension. Lester, no matter who you are, your departure will be the end. Once this redemption is completed, I and all the souls here will be freed. Don't even think about it." With a roar, the black fog came. "I want you to die with me." When Feng Bujue saw the undercurrent, he turned around and ran. He limped and stumbled toward the door. The black fog behind them chased after them like a shadow. Even the little girl and the ghosts in the hall were powerless to resist and were all swallowed up. "You can't run away. I have absorbed all the power here. No one can stop me." The director's voice was almost at Feng Bujue's ear. "You can't escape from me. Lester, don't even think about it." At this moment, every inch of the hospital was filled with the thick black fog that was the director's evil spirit. Only the area close to the door had not been swallowed by him, and the only exit was right in front of them. Just a little more, just a little more. Feng Bujue decided to crawl and roll to the door. But just 2 meters away from the door, his injured leg was seized by the black fog. "Ha ha, ha!" The director laughed wildly. A fat face covered in copper coins poked out from the surging black fog. "The game is over." He was right. When the black fog wrapped around his leg, Feng Bujue's entire body was unable to move. An unprecedented feeling came over him. If death was a feeling, then at this moment, Feng Bujue was experiencing death. His body was dyed gray and shrouded in the aura of death. His 5 senses were still there, but they were barely there. This was the feeling of a ghost. Everything when they were alive seemed to be an illusion, and the death at this moment was real. If they did not accept this reality, they would disappear. Because they were afraid of forgetting that illusion, they desired to devour life. "You feel it, don't you? Ha! This is death." The director's face leaned over. "This is your final destination, and the final destination of all living beings. Ha! Even in the netherworld, you dregs will still be trampled under my feet." Death is also a part of chaos. Feng Bujue continued weakly. All things begin from chaos and return to chaos. What is life? What is death? It doesn't matter. If you know life and death, then you can know life and death. If you don't know life and death, then there is no life and no death. What is reality? What is illusion? Everything is boundless and boundless. Everything is just a thought. He murmured, and his body began to move again, slowly crawling towards the door. "What's going on?" The director's face was filled with horror. "This is impossible." He controlled the black fog to continue pouncing on Feng Bujue, but the faint rays of sunlight at the door were like an indestructible barrier, blocking the black fog outside the line of light. "I have to thank you," Feng Bujue said as he crawled. "There's a part of the knowledge that Zero taught me. I couldn't understand it no matter how hard I tried. Now, thanks to the feeling of death, I seem to have figured it out." As soon as he finished speaking, Brother Bujue flipped over and rolled out of the door. No! A rumbling roar came from the black fog. It was so loud that it seemed to be able to shatter a person's soul. However, this roar was soon replaced by another voice. "Oh my God! Look, is that clothes? Hey, come here. I think we found something. Drag him out. Be careful. He's already frozen. Don't break his limbs." Some of the conversations reached Feng Bujue's ears. His body temperature dropped to freezing point in an instant. A blinding light suddenly flashed in front of his eyes, making him realize that his eyes were actually closed. Then, he gradually lost consciousness. When Feng Bujue came back to his senses, a voice notification rang in his ears. Current mission completed. Main mission completed. Automatically teleported after watching the ending. At this time, he lost control of his body. He was now in a state where he watched the CG from God's perspective. In the screen, the covers of many newspapers and magazines flashed. The miraculous survival of the night security guard. Escaped after being buried for nearly 30 hours. A miracle in exchange for the perseverance of the rescue team. Similar titles flashed continuously. Then, there were a few segments of television news. All kinds of monster anchors were holding a microphone in front of the camera. The Cedar County Public Hospital accident has led to a shocking corruption case. The local officials have been removed from their positions. The Kingdom spokesperson has said that the case will be thoroughly investigated. He hopes that the current officials in the country will take this as a warning. The special plan for the inspection standards of public institutions has been initiated. It is expected to be implemented within the year. Is the curse rumor true? Is it the fault of the hospital director? Or is it a loophole in the system? Today, the only survivor of the Cedar County Public Hospital accident has been discharged. During his stay in the hospital, this gentleman refused all media interviews. After a series of intercut scenes flashed by, the scene in front of Feng Bujue finally stopped. Spring was in full bloom, and the ice and snow melted. On top of a small green hill, a figure slowly walked over. It was Lester. He wore casual clothes and walked toward a stone tablet on the top of the hill. In front of the stone tablet, there was a marble square. It looked like it had been chopped by a knife or an axe. On it was engraved a line of words. In memory of the 125 people who died in the Cedar County Public Hospital accident. Lester stood silently in front of the tablet. He closed his eyes as if he was recalling something. However, there were some things that he could not remember. After standing there for a long time, he opened his eyes and offered the bouquet in his hand. In the end, he was relieved. He let out a long sigh of relief, turned around, and strode away. His eyes were no longer frivolous. Instead, there was a sense of gratitude for life. Chapter 520. The scenario has been completed. Calculating reward. Obtained EXP 340000. Game coins 100000 inch obtained items. Must-have blade of penetration, flashlight, mirror. Missions completed 6/6 completed special and hidden missions. 0. Unlocked world building. None. Time of terror points increase. 0. Highest terror points 0%. Average terror points 0%. Your terror rating is embodiment of valor. Extra reward obtained. Please select later. Obtain skill points. 1, 224 additional bonus from skill points. EXP 12240. Game coins 100000 inch scenario cleared reward. Puzzle card X2 calculation complete. Please continue. After returning to the login lobby, the notification appeared on the touchscreen. Ah, this is great. I managed to get through 100 words just like that. Feng Bujue said something that came out of nowhere. We can ignore him. Okay, let's go take a look at the reward first. After looking at the notification, Feng Bujue turned and walked into the storage room. The 2 glass tubes were already in place, waiting for him to claim his reward. Brother Ju went to claim his reward for clearing the scenario. They were puzzle card, banana, and toilet card. He tried them out, but they could not form a set with the original puzzle card, strawberry, so he temporarily placed them in the storage. Then, he walked to the second glass tube, and a familiar interface appeared before his eyes. Please select your extra reward. 1. A random piece of equipment corresponding to your level. 2. 50,000 game coins, max. 3. 17 million EXP. That's 17 million EXP. Feng Bujue looked at the menu before him. At level 30, This amount of EXP should be enough for a player to level up 4 or 5 times. As he said that, he selected the equipment reward. The white light gathered, and the items slowly took form. Item name: the comic artist tuxedo. Item type: armor quality, normal defense points, weak element, none special effect. It will always look as new as when it was purchased. Equip requirement: general ability mastery B, bound after pickup. Note: damn it, the standalone book sales are obviously good, and it even got a chance to be serialized in Weekly Youth Jump, but why wasn't it invited to the annual meeting? I even bought a tuxedo. Only after I bought it did I realize that the mangaka wasn't even on the invitation list. What the hell? Fong Bujue was shocked when he saw the item's description. Can this even be considered equipment? This was definitely not an item that was automatically generated by the system, right? What kind of programmer would do something like this? Was it done by the guy who designed the Rotten Egg skill? Leader, why don't you find such people to have a heart-to-heart talk with when you have nothing better to do? Without a doubt, this equipment could only be sold in the shop. Because its quality was normal, even the disintegrator would not accept it. Thus, after Brother Ju finished complaining, he took the items to the mall. Now, Fong Bujue was a superstar. At least in Thriller Paradise, his popularity was no less than the top celebrity players. Therefore, after some discussion with his friends, Brother Ju had changed the mall number that he was used to. Previously, the members of Underworld Frontline were active in Area 10 of the mall, but now they had moved to Area 101. This area was relatively at the back, so the number of people would be much smaller, and it could effectively prevent them from being surrounded. However, the number of people in the area was relatively small. The basic principle of the phase space was to separate the players who did not have a fixed area number and send them to the less populated areas. Therefore, as long as it was an area that existed, there would be at least 100 people in it. Hee. Look, the one in the purple suit. Could it be? Oh, is that Fong Bujue? Look closer. Recently, there have been people using this style everywhere. Even the hairstyle is similar to his. It's him. He looks just like the one I saw in a video. Oh, is that so? Let me take a look. In person, there is nothing special about him. Don't be ridiculous. There are rumors that this person is a professional assassin in real life. How come I hear he is a patient at a mental hospital? Conversations like these came one after another, and they drilled into Fong Bujue's ears from all directions. Under the burning gaze of the nearby players and the whispers among themselves, Brother Ju walked quickly to the system shop. He took out his tuxedo, flashlight, and small mirror from his inventory. After selling these useless items, he quickly and quietly returned the way he came. Sigh, what's going on? After Fong Bujue returned to the login lobby, he sighed. Now I'm going to the mall like a thief. He scratched his head and tapped on the touchscreen a few times. There have been a lot less harassing emails recently. Looks like the release of a new update has diverted the public's attention. He paused, but perhaps there are too many people on my blacklist? He was multitasking. As he deleted the spam, he started to think about what mode he should queue for next. Another nightmare. Fong Bujue looked at the screen and mumbled. Or, he deleted all the new emails and pulled up the mode selection interface. Now that I think about it, this new mode is quite interesting. With that in mind, Brother Ju had basically decided where he should go. After all, he was in sleeping mode, and he did not play in the morning, so he did not need to worry about the game going over the time limit in real life. Therefore, he had plenty of time to explore the world in free exploration mode. Fong Bujue, level 43. Please select the game mode that you wish to join. You have selected free exploration mode. Every time you enter this mode, 20,000 game coins will be consumed. Please confirm. Confirmed. You have joined this mode for the first time. Currently searching for the multiverse. Search completed. Connecting to the multiverse. Downloading. Please wait a moment. After that, the elevators started to move. Welcome to Thriller Paradise. This time, the opening was delivered by the system audio. Fong Bujue mumbled. Isn't this no different from entering a normal scenario? There is no difference. Download complete. You are currently in free exploration mode. This mode does not have a quest system, no time limit, and no AFK-like effect. You can travel between the login lobby and the scenario world through the safe house. Every time you enter this mode, 20,000 game coins will be consumed. The scenario has started. Please leave this safe house in 5 minutes. At this point, the elevator door opened. Outside the door was a space that was shaped like a cave. The 4 walls and ceiling were made from irregular rocks, and there was a steel door embedded in the wall that faced the elevator. Naturally, the door was closed. There was a strange-looking device placed at the corner of the cave. It was about the size of a fridge, and there was a creaking sound coming from it. The thing looked like a generator. There were several cables that extended out from the bottom of it, and they were connected to the various simple lamps in the cave. Feng Bujue walked out of the elevator and looked around. There was nothing inside this so-called safe house. It was nothing more than a buffer zone that connected the login lobby and the door to the outside world. After he stepped into the safe house, a menu filled with words appeared before his eyes, and the subtitles started to scroll. Before you enter free exploration mode for the first time, please understand the following. A. When you walk out of the elevator, you have officially entered the scenario world. From that moment onward, returning to the elevator will be treated as leaving the scenario normally. B. You can only stay in the safe house for 5 minutes. Please leave the door or return to the login lobby within 5 minutes, or you will be forcibly teleported back to the login lobby. Similarly, you will be treated as leaving the scenario normally. C. If you leave the scenario outside the safe house, this includes but is not limited to being killed, forced to quit, or disconnected. Your game coins, skill points, and EXP will be penalized accordingly. When you enter the scenario world again, you will return to the last recorded safe house. D. Within 1 hour, you can only pass through the door of the safe house once, regardless of whether you leave or enter. The skills or items that you use inside the safe house will not affect the people or items outside the safe house. E. You can bring items that are able to be brought out of this world into the safe house. If you need to bring a living creature into the safe house, please ensure that you have obtained the ownership of the creature and put it into your backpack first. F. All conscious entities in the scenario world, including the summoned creatures of the player, are not allowed to enter the safe house. For exceptions, please refer to Rule E. G. Every time you enter free exploration mode, you will spend 20,000 game coins. If you are not satisfied with the universe that you have been allocated to, or if you feel bored after a long period of exploration, you can use 500,000 game coins to redistribute the universe. They keep saying that I need to spend 20,000 game coins to enter the safe house. They mentioned it 3 times already. Feng Bujue only used a few seconds to scan through all the hints before him. He had seen most of them in the update, and the rest could be found in the details, so he only skimmed through them before closing the menu. But if that's not the case, it'll cause quite a lot of trouble, he said as he walked toward the door that led to the outside world. He had a point. For example, some players might try to walk back and forth in front of the elevator or hide inside the safe house to repeatedly farm their skills. Naturally, that would lead to them being teleported. Then, they would file a complaint for the loss of 20,000 game coins. Even though, in essence, it was these people who did not read the game manual that caused the loss, they would still stubbornly push the blame to others. These days, there are many people like that. Even if they were struck by lightning while walking on the street, they would still go to find an individual or organization to file a lawsuit to try and recoup their losses. As expected, there's no lock. Feng Bujue walked to the door that led to the outside world and looked at the thick steel door. There was only one doorknob on the door. There was no keyhole, and it could be opened with a twist. That's true. After all, things from the outside world can't come in. He twisted the doorknob and pulled the door open. Outside the door, there was a long and narrow passageway. There were rocks all around, but there was no lighting equipment outside. At a glance, they couldn't see the end of the passageway. Brother Ju did not hesitate to take out the compound anti-gravity gun from his inventory. After turning on the searchlight at the front, he walked forward. Just as he took a few steps forward, he heard 2 consecutive bangs. He turned back to look, and the door to the safe house had automatically closed. There was a mark drawn on the side of the steel door that faced the outside, and it was drawn right in the middle of the door. The mark was very simple. It was a circle with the word shock inside it. I'll give it a try. Feng Bujue did not complain about the mark. Instead, he turned back, took 2 steps forward, and used his hand to grab the doorknob again. Sorry, you have entered this door recently. Please try again after 34 seconds. The system prompt and the subtitles appeared at the same time, but the doorknob did not move. Okay, Feng Bujue said casually. After that, he placed the compound anti-gravity gun on the ground. Then, he shouted at the air before him. At the same time, he threw out both of his fists in a pincer attack. After unleashing the first wild ball punch, he fell into deep thought. Since this mode has no time limit and negative judgment, why don't I just sit here and unleash one punch every hour? He calculated in his heart. If that's the case, I'll level up once in 59 hours. In real life, it'll only take me 5 hours and 54 minutes. That's about 1 night in the game. If that's the case, after training for 10 nights, I'll be invincible. After this thought flashed through his mind, he immediately shook his head. TSK, how is that possible? Indeed, for Feng Bujue, such a possibility was impossible. He was an adventurous person, a person who could not stay idle. For him, boredom was worse than any punishment. Besides, that kind of behavior was not a person playing the game. It was the game that was playing the person. He was not a professional player, so why should he suffer like this? Sigh, life is so tiring. Let's go, Brother Ju said to himself. He picked up the compound anti-gravity gun from the ground and moved forward. The rocky passage ahead was rugged and winding, and it was much longer than he expected. Fortunately, he had all the equipment and skills he needed, so he was not afraid of anything. Even if he encountered a predator, he was confident that he could fight it. Speaking of which, this mode is really free, Feng Bujue said as he walked. There's not even a synopsis. Theoretically, I could have been shrunk N times, crawling in some kind of insect's nest. He paused. Or maybe I'm on some alien planet. Just as he was pondering, suddenly. Chapter 521. All of a sudden, a strange light shone in the distance. Feng Bujue immediately turned off the lighting device in his hand and looked into the distance. At the end of the dark and narrow corridor, a scarlet spot was particularly eye-catching. Is that the exit? Brother Ju said. Red light. I feel like there's a conspiracy. He slowed down slightly and slowly approached the entrance of the cave. Not long after, he felt an obvious heat flow in his face. Because the slope of the corridor was slightly downward, the location of the safe house was below the surface and the temperature was lower. Now that he was close to the entrance of the cave, the temperature suddenly rose to about 35 degrees. Oh, if this is the general temperature of this world, it's going to be difficult, Feng Bujue said. Actually, it was not difficult. When he said this sentence, he already had a countermeasure in his mind. The easiest way was to buy another set of spare clothes. In the future, when he entered the free exploration mode, he could change into another set of clothes before entering. With Brother Ju's personality, it was very likely that he would spend a very low cost to make a set of Fire Cloud Evil God suit with a vest, shorts, and flip-flops. With that kind of design, it would be fine even if it was 40 degrees. Whoosh! When Feng Bujue just arrived at the entrance of the cave, a hot wind swept by. The heat was like the lid of a steamer being opened, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Sigh, it's really a desert. Feng Bujue looked at the endless rolling yellow sand in front of him and sighed. Although he was mentally prepared when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still quite disappointed. He would rather be randomly sent to a universe where Skynet and humans fought in the apocalypse than be assigned to a place where even birds don't shit. But reality once again proved that life was not as you wished. Okay, I can't give up hope, Feng Bujue said as he covered his mouth and nose with his gloves, stepped out of the corridor, and stepped into the endless desert. Maybe this is a corner of the DC or Marvel universe. This sentence was indeed his inner thoughts. The universes that Fong Bujue wanted to go to the most were undoubtedly these two universes that were filled with superheroes. First of all, he had a very comprehensive understanding of the two universes, such as the personalities, abilities, and weaknesses of the main characters, as well as the major events that were about to happen or had already happened. He knew everything like the back of his hand. Secondly, these two cosmoses were abnormally rich in resources. Advanced technology, magic, genetic derivatives of mutated humans, aliens, and even cosmos gods could be exploited. In addition, there were some personal reasons. Brother Jew had always wanted to do a few things, such as bankrupting Batman, traveling to the planets of the Yellow Lantern Corps, talking about life with Dr. Manhattan, taking off Dr. Destruction's mask, listening to King Blackbat sing, turning Tony Stark into a woman, and so on. It could be said that these two universes were like treasure troves. The stronger the player's ability, the more benefits they could obtain. Moreover, these benefits were almost inexhaustible. However, it turned out that Brother Jew was overthinking things. Why would the system send him to such a good place? General, the drone in the third experimental zone seems to have captured something. Switch the image to the main screen. Yes, sir. Is that an Earthling? According to the appearance database, there is an 84% chance that it is an Earthling, a 10% chance that it is an alien, and a 6% chance that it is some other shape-shifting species. Humph. No matter what it is, capture it first. Understood. Attention, first team. An unknown intruder has appeared 50 kilometers to the west of the base. Please capture it immediately. Looking at Fong Bujue, he had no idea that he had been targeted. At that moment, he was sprinting through the desert. Brother Jew had just realized that the special effect of Void Tread was just as effective on sand. Therefore, for him, running through the desert was easier than walking. It was like running on flat ground. No matter what, as my first safe house in this world, it can't be located in a deserted environment where I won't run into anyone for days. Brother Jew thought as he ran. If that's the case, I might have to leave the scenario due to game time before I find the next safe house. He licked his dry lips. Running in a straight line like this, I'll definitely run into something. Even if I can't walk out of the desert, I should at least find a camp or an oasis. In just 10 minutes, his clothes were soaked in sweat, and the high temperature caused the water in his body to drain rapidly. Even though the players did not need to eat or drink in the scenario, the feeling of fatigue and discomfort would cause a drain on their stamina points. When their stamina points dropped to 0, their life points would be threatened. Therefore, the environment was the player's enemy. The sun here makes me worry as well. Fong Bujue raised his head to look at the sky. The color is obviously different from the sun that I know, and I wonder how strong the ultraviolet light is. If this is not Earth, then it's hard to tell how the celestial bodies move. Perhaps the sun here won't set for another 50 hours, or the temperature at night will be higher than in the day, or perhaps it's actually night and the red thing in the sky is actually the moon. Without realizing it, his mind started to wander, and he started to fill in the blanks in his mind. In a normal scenario, due to the limitation of the mission, time, and map, Fong Bujue did not have the chance to understand the details of the world. But in free exploration mode, exploration was the focus. The players could abandon the normal scenario and explore endless possibilities. Because in this mode, there was no so-called goal, and the players did not have to follow the routine of killing monsters to level up and obtain equipment. If they wanted to, they could even run for president. Of course, every once in a while, they would have to leave this world. Click, 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 click. Suddenly, a sound came from behind a sand dune to the left of Brother Jew. It sounded like the footsteps of a large animal. Fong Bujue turned toward the sound and saw a few large metallic heads poking out from behind the sand dune. Robots! Fong Bujue's first reaction was Transformers. But after a few seconds, he realized that was not right. The cockpits of the large mechas were transparent and were located at the stomach of the mecha. There were pilots inside the cockpits. This was in broad daylight, so Brother Jew's eyesight was extremely good. He focused and realized that the pilots were not human. Even though their body shape was similar to a human's, their shoulders were strange. These creatures' shoulders were raised high, and the highest point was close to their temples. Their armpits were about the same level as their necks. Since these people were all wearing the same green uniform and helmet, for now, Feng Bujue could only see the difference of bone structure. If he observed them from a close distance, the difference between them and normal humans would be even greater. Look closer. Their bodies also have the shape of an M on their shoulders. Feng Bujue stopped moving and waited for the other party's reaction. Earthling, cross your arms in front of your chest. Stand there and don't move. One of the mecha pilots warned Feng Bujue. The voice was obviously amplified and came from a part of the mecha, so Feng Bujue could hear it clearly even though he was standing more than 10 meters away. Ah, they really are aliens. Brother Ju followed the instructions and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Wait, from her point of view, I'm the alien. He began to observe the other's actions with great interest. He began to speculate in his mind. For example, this race's technological level, cultural level, social structure, reproduction method, reporting to base. This is Team 1. I'm the team leader, Jiji. The target seems to be able to understand our language and has not made any obvious moves to resist. Jiji spoke into the communicator in the lead mecha. Can we proceed with capture strategy number 3? Over. After a short moment of silence, the base replied, Yes, please be careful. Jiji, over. After receiving approval from the higher-ups, Jiji turned on the loudspeaker and said to Brother Ju, Earthling, you are under arrest. Please cooperate with us and do not make any unnecessary resistance. Feng Bujue stood still and did not move at all. He really wanted to cooperate with the other's actions, but he did not know what to do. What should I do? Brother Ju pondered. If it was on Earth, the regular army would usually ask the subdued to put their hands behind their head and kneel on the ground. But here, they asked me to stand with my arms crossed. Of course, this is understandable. With their skeletal structure, it would be difficult for them to put their hands behind their head. His gaze wandered as he counted the number of mecha in front of him. There were a total of 11 mecha. Based on this train of thought, in the eyes of this race, bowing might be equivalent to contempt, nodding might be equivalent to mockery, smiling might be equivalent to anger, touching legs is sexual harassment. Oh wait, touching legs on Earth is also... Click, 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 click. Jiji's mecha came forward and approached Brother Ju. The mecha was about 10 meters tall, and its body shape was similar to its operators, a humanoid with high shoulders. Stand on the robot's palm, Jiji said as he controlled the mecha to extend its hand. Feng Bujue did as he was told without hesitation. The moment he stood on it, the robot's palm began to change shape. In 2 seconds, it became a spherical cage. Jiji let out a sigh of relief. He adjusted his tone and said seriously, I am 2nd Lieutenant Jiji of the Shrug Shoulders Army. I now officially announce that you are under arrest for stealing military secrets. All right, as the saying goes, adapt to the circumstances. Feng Bujue laughed at himself. Chapter 522. To be honest, after being locked in the cage, Feng Bujue felt a lot more at ease. If he was on Earth, he would have been handcuffed and put on a prison wagon. This was the difference between a prisoner in custody and a fugitive. A prisoner in custody was equivalent to being under control. As long as he did not resist violently, the law enforcement officers had to ensure his safety. However, it was different for a fugitive. Any movement could lead to death. At this point, Feng Bujue dared to communicate with the other party more boldly. He immediately shouted, Hey, where am I? What planet was this? Are you talking about the Shrug Star? The translation function of the system would solve any language problems. Regardless of whether the players spoke classical Chinese, idioms, or dialect slang, the system would be able to accurately convey the meaning to others. There was no need to worry about the words not conveying the meaning. You have no right to ask questions, intruder, Jiji replied. If you have anything to say it to the person interrogating you. I'm Jia. Capture Plan 3 has been completed. Team 1 requests to return to base. Over. Jia reported the situation through the communicator. Permission granted. Over. This time, the reply came very quickly. Thus, GGG led the 11 mechas of the first squad back to their military base. Feng Bujue stood on the robot's palm and waited silently. Although he didn't have to run anymore, he didn't feel good at all. Because the robot's palm was made of metal and had long been scorched by the sun, the temperature in the palm cage was no lower than the temperature outside. The red sunlight shone through the gaps and roasted Brother Ju, who was wearing a long suit. He really felt like he was playing teppanyaki. He called himself a second lieutenant in the army, which means that I didn't meet the police, but the military. Feng Bujue could only think to distract himself. It's too far-fetched to say that I stole military secrets. This is a vast desert. What secrets could there be? He exhaled a breath of hot air. Oh, weapon testing grounds. That makes sense. It's getting hotter and hotter. Brother Ju pulled on his collar, and there was smoke coming out of it. Look at these people wearing thick uniforms and helmets. They must have invented something like air conditioner in their technology. He wiped away the droplets of sweat that flowed from his forehead to his eyes. What if these people are born with a natural heat resistance, and the machines on this planet are also heat resistant? Then I will be in deep trouble. Thinking of this, he suddenly thought of something. That's right. Although I can't take off my clothes, what if the people on this planet want to take off my clothes? For example, they want to dissect me for research purposes. Unfortunately, he was still thinking too much. With the existence of the system, this kind of thing would definitely not happen. About 10 minutes later, a desert fortress appeared in Brother Ju's vision. It was a very magnificent building with a height of more than 50 meters. The shape of the building could be clearly described in one sentence. It was a huge M. Where should I start? Feng Bujue threw a wild ball punch into the air and muttered softly, I'm afraid it's impossible to avoid a famous fast food brand. Team 1 has returned, requesting to enter the base. Over. Jia used the communicator to contact the base again. Entrance number 3 is ready. Please enter from there. Over. Understood. Jia replied. Not long after, the 11 mechas majestically rushed towards the pillar on the right side of M. When they arrived in front of the fortress, the mechas of Squad 1 all stopped. Accompanied by the loud rumbling of machinery, a large door in front of them slowly opened. This door was obviously designed for large vehicles to pass through. After it opened, there was a sloping asphalt runway that led underground. Led by Jia, the mechas of Squad 1 entered in a single file. After that, the door behind them closed again. The red sunlight was finally blocked out and was replaced by white strips of light on both sides of the runway. Phew! Feng Bujue let out a long sigh of relief. So that's how it is where the sun doesn't reach. Even without air conditioning, the temperature will be much lower. After walking for a while, they reached the end of the runway. It was a semicircular space that was as big as 3 football fields. On the arc of this semicircular space, there were 6 tunnel entrances of different shapes that extended into 6 runways. On the other side of the straight line, there were 4 giant mechanical doors that were tens of meters tall. The 4 doors were marked with 4 strange symbols. When Brother Ju's gaze landed on the symbols, the corresponding text appeared in the system's translation. In fact, the 4 symbols were equivalent to the Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, these words look interesting. Feng Bujue did not seem to understand his situation at all. He was still interested in studying the alien characters to see if there were any rules to follow. It was as if he wanted to learn another foreign language here. Second Lieutenant Jia, and all members of Squad 1 are here to report. Officer was wearing a green uniform and a strange pointed hat. He raised 3 fingers on his right hand. There were only 3 fingers in total, and patted his forehead. Well done, Second Lieutenant. Leave the rest to me. Yes, sir. Jia mimicked the officer's action. It looked like this gesture was equivalent to the salute of the Star Troopers. After responding, Jia sat back in the pilot's seat and pressed a few buttons on the control panel. Then, the palm cage around Feng Bujua transformed and expanded. In the next second, 4 armed Star Troopers surrounded Brother Ju. At this moment, Feng Bujua could clearly see the appearance of these Star Troopers. When he looked at them up close, he could see that other than the height of their shoulders, their faces were also very different from humans. The Star Troopers' faces were not flat like humans' faces. Instead, they were like fish, narrow in the middle and wide on both sides. They had 2 eyes that were bulging high on both sides of their cheeks. At first glance, it was obvious that they were creatures with a very wide field of vision, if they were not blocked by their own shoulders. Their noses, which looked like noses, did not have an obvious nasal bridge. There were about a dozen extremely small nostrils distributed at the front of their narrow faces. The shape was a bit like the small holes on a telephone receiver. Their mouths were not much different from humans, but because of the shape of their faces, their mouths appeared to be wider. Feng Bujua looked for a while and did not find any ear-like organs on the Star Troopers' heads. He pondered. The Star Troopers' hearing organs were likely to be at the back of the head or in other parts of the body. Because the 2 sides of the head were covered by the shoulders, from an evolutionary point of view, the ears should not be on the 2 sides of the head. Earthling, you can understand our language, right? The officer said. Feng Bujua stood in place and did not move. He calmly replied, yes. After he finished looking at the appearance of these aliens, he began to quietly observe their weapons. The 4 soldiers around him were all holding metal objects and posing as if they were ready to shoot at any time. The guns in the hands of these Star Troopers were very similar to the same products on Earth, but the shape was still slightly different. The eyes, the angle between the neck and shoulders, the length of the arms, and the number of fingers of the shrug-shoulder aliens were different from humans. These factors affected the shooting habits of the species when using weapons, which would also affect the shape of the guns. Oh, you actually know how to speak our language? The officer was slightly surprised as he read. I'm sorry, sir. He did say a few words to us after he was arrested, but I didn't report it. Judge, it's all right, Second Lieutenant. The officer looked up and replied. Then, he turned to Brother Ju and said, looks like you're a veteran spy. Earthling. Feng Bujua had watched a lot of spy movies. He immediately made a very sharp reaction. Oomph. First, it was a cold snort, then a contemptuous look. May I ask what your military rank is? The officer sneered. I am a colonel of the Shrugstar Army. I am Huahua. He paused for a moment. I wonder, who are you, sir? Feng Bujua laughed. His expression was stern. Let your superior talk to me. Huahua paced back and forth. He looked up and down at Brother Ju. Hey, you're a prisoner. He spat on the ground. The saliva of the Shrugstar Troopers was crystal clear. You're quite arrogant, aren't you? Oomph. Feng Bujua raised his head, but didn't say anything. His subtext was, I have nothing to say to someone of your level. Good. Stubborn to the end. Huahua stared at Brother Ju and nodded slightly. You got guts. He waved at the soldiers. Take him to the interrogation room. Before he finished, the soldier standing behind Brother Ju pushed him and shouted, Let's go. What are you pushing me for? Feng Bujua suddenly flipped out and shouted. This sudden, almost hysterical roar scared the soldier. I can walk on my own. 2 seconds later, Feng Bujua added. Then, with his head held high, he swaggered away. Huahua took a deep breath to calm his anger. He adjusted his collar, gave a few orders to the members of the first unit, and then left with the group of soldiers. Perhaps I might be confused. Before Brother Ju was captured, he had been so peaceful, so why would he suddenly become so lawless after he was captured? This was the saying, times have changed. Earlier, Feng Bujua was extremely lacking in information, so he put on a cooperative attitude. But now that he knew some of the basic settings of the scenario, the situation was very different. When he first entered the world of the scenario, Feng Bujua knew nothing about the setting of this world. At the time, he didn't dare offend anyone. This was because he was an extreme person. His philosophy was, if I stepped on a cockroach, and the cockroach happened to be the pet of this world's supreme god, then I would have to burn 500,000 game coins to teach it a lesson. But now, Brother Jew had a certain level of contact with the people of the Shrugged Shoulders, and he knew what to do. He was confident that with his combat ability, he could do whatever he wanted in this base. His basis was simple, because the weapons in the hands of the soldiers and the mechas showed that this was a planet that was heavily technologically advanced. A race that was technologically advanced would not have that much physical combat ability. The universe was fair. Either you were technologically advanced, physically strong, or skilled in magic. This was not a choice, but a choice of evolution. If a race could blow up a star with one punch, then why would they research things like pistols and missiles? If a race could use magic to teleport to any corner of the universe, then why would they research spaceships? Technology was to serve its inventor. Without demand, there would be no technology. Therefore, Fong Bujue could conclude that the combat ability of the people of the Shrugged Shoulders was very limited. Even if they were stronger than normal humans, they would not be that much stronger. If their fists and feet were faster than bullets, then why would they need guns? Screech! The electronic door of the interrogation room slowly opened, and the next second, Fong Bujue was pushed into the room. A rustling figure appeared at the door. "Wait here for a while, big shot." Then he scoffed and turned to leave. A soldier in the corridor then pressed a button on the control panel next to the door. The device made a soft beep, and the electronic door closed. Inside the interrogation room, Brother Jew was left alone. This is interesting. Fong Bujue turned around and started to observe the environment. There were no windows in this room, and there was no obvious ventilation. There was only one door to the outside, and it was the electronic door that had just been closed. The upper half of the wall opposite the door was a large, flat, and smooth mirror. "This is a one-way glass, is it?" Fong Bujue walked to the mirror wall and knocked twice on the surface of the mirror. This place is becoming more and more like a spy movie from the previous century. He mumbled. There are no cameras in the corners of the room. He walked to the middle of the room, where there was a table and 2 chairs. They were all made from metal, and they were nailed to the ground so that they could not be moved. There are no cameras on the table and chairs either. He sat down and raised his head. The light comes from a ceiling, and the lamps are not installed inside the room. Not bad. This will prevent the criminals from destroying the lighting and using the broken glass as a weapon. Brother Jew put his hands behind his head, crossed his legs, and sighed. Although there are no vents, the air conditioning is very comfortable. Chapter 523. After a while, the door of the interrogation room opened again. A man of Planet Shrugged who was nearly 2 meters tall, the average height of Planet Shrugged was similar to humans, and wearing a military uniform, Planet Shrugged was also divided into 2 genders, walked in. After he entered the room, he was not in a hurry to speak, nor did he approach Fong Bujue. He just stood at the door and waited quietly for a few seconds until the electronic door behind him closed again before he stepped forward. "I heard you want to talk to me." He took a few steps forward and stood by the table, looking at Brother Jew who was sitting across the table, and said in a deep voice, "Then say something." He paused and said in a slightly sarcastic tone, "Big shot." Fong Bujue looked up at him for 2 seconds and replied with a smile, "Who are you?" "Planet Shrugged's Army Lieutenant General." He replied. Fong Bujue laughed dryly and thought to himself, "There must be a lot of people with the same name in your race. Don't try to get close to me, you spy," he replied. When General he said this, Brother Jew realized that his laughter was part of the other party's name. I want to ask," Fong Bujue said, "do people from your planet all have the same syllables as their names?" He replied, "That's right. Do you have a problem with that?" "Earthling. Then aren't there a lot of people with the same name?" Fong Bujue asked. He snorted and sat in the chair opposite Brother Jew. "Listen, Earthling, I'm sitting down to talk to you now, because I think you're valuable. If this is your attitude, then I don't mind using another method to ask." His expression changed, It seemed to be a threatening expression. Now, put away your tourist-style questions and tell me your name, military rank, and unit you belong to. Tell me everything, or else. I'm a superhero from Earth, Feng Bujue replied immediately. When he said this sentence, his expression did not change, and his heart did not skip a beat. Even humans would not be able to see any trace of lying on his face, let alone a planet shrugged. In a battle with a supercriminal, I was forcibly transported. Brother Jew came up with a set of excuses he made up in the last few minutes. When I came back to my senses, I was already in a desert. He heard this and was silent for a few seconds. His eyes seemed to be looking at the mirror behind Brother Jew. After a while, he said, "Do you think I'll believe this?" "It doesn't matter if you believe it or not." Feng Bujue pointed at the mirror behind him. "As long as the person behind the glass believes it, it's fine." His expression changed significantly at this moment. Brother Jew saw this and was more convinced of his speculation. He continued to say, "You're not a lieutenant general. In my opinion, your rank is lower than the colonel I saw earlier." He touched his chin and said, "Let's remove the acting elements. Inferring from your body shape, temperament, habits, and other aspects, you're very likely to be a security company commander around a high-ranking officer." Feng Bujue tilted his head and looked at the mirror behind him. "Of course, if I were a general, I'd make the same choice." When he said this, he stood up. He also reacted in an instant. He jumped up and took the opportunity to get ready for a fight. "Don't be nervous," Feng Bujue said. "This chair isn't very comfortable to sit on. I'll stand up and take a walk." He smiled. "After all, this is an interrogation room. I can't ask you to bring in a sofa. You'd better not be too presumptuous." His face was ferocious. It seemed like Brother Jew's talent for attracting hatred was universal in any corner of the universe. "From the moment I met your first team until I was sent to this interrogation room." Feng Bujue ignored the other party's threat and continued to say, "Throughout the whole process, no one came to search me." He paced back and forth in front of the mirror. "At least on Earth, this is a very unreasonable situation. What if I'm hiding some kind of powerful explosive device on me? Wouldn't it be dangerous to bring me back to the base?" He smiled and said, "Although there are many theoretical possibilities, such as you are generally not very smart, or the concept of death on this planet is different from Earth, and so on. But the most reasonable inference is undoubtedly, you are convinced that I don't have any dangerous goods on me." Brother Jew licked his lips and looked at the mirror. He fixed his hair that was out of shape due to sweat. "I think on your large mechas at the various junctions of the base and..." He tapped on the glass in front of him again. "Behind this one-way glass, there are very advanced metal detectors installed." At this point, he turned around and looked at he. "But even though you know that I have nothing but some magazines on me, you still didn't let your guard down. So, you let this very skilled soldier pretend to be a lieutenant general and come to talk to me. Even if I suddenly do something extremely dangerous, the real general won't be hurt." Buzz, buzz, buzz. Before Feng Bujue could finish his sentence, there was a sudden buzzing sound. The mirror in the room turned into a transparent glass in 2 seconds. Brother Jew looked sideways. On the other side of the glass, there was another room. The room was larger than the interrogation room, and there were many instruments inside. At this moment, the real Lieutenant General he was standing on the other side of the glass, looking at Feng Bujue. "You come back first," the general said. His words were clearly transmitted into the interrogation room. "Yes, sir." The officer who called himself but was actually he responded and immediately walked to the door. When the electronic door of the interrogation room opened, he retreated. "Earthling, you seem to be a smart aleck," the general on the other side of the glass said to Brother Jew, "but I'm not a 3-year-old kid. Even if you have some smarts and can make some decent deductions, it doesn't change the situation." He paused for a moment. "You say that you're a superhero on Earth. That's fine, but it's just empty words. I need evidence." Feng Bujue didn't say anything. He pretended to snap his fingers, and in the next second, there was a shiny poker card in his hand. "Oomph," the general sneered. This only proves that you are a magician. His smile quickly froze on his face. Screech! There was an extremely nasty sound. Brother Jew directly used death poker to cut the glass in front of him, creating a sound similar to fingernails scratching the glass. How was this possible? General Hee hurriedly took a few steps back. The staff sitting next to the console also stood up and retreated to the wall. He, who had just returned to the opposite room, and a few soldiers who were originally in the room picked up their weapons and aimed in the direction of the glass, ready to shoot at any time. It's really an impressive product. Feng Bujue quickly cut an oval opening in the glass in front of him. He looked at the edge of the opening and said, "It's 3 centimeters thick. There are a lot of nano-level mechanical components between the 2 layers of crystal. It looks like it's a piece of high-tech equipment." He guessed right. This glass that separated the console room and the interrogation room was very expensive and advanced military equipment for the people of the Shrugged Shoulders. It was more expensive than a tank. This surveillance board could not only transmit and adjust unidirectional visual and auditory signals, but also had the function of a surveillance camera and metal scanner. Most importantly, this board was extremely resistant to pressure. Even if someone self-destructed in the interrogation room, which had happened before, it would not affect the people in the console room next door. Therefore, when the people of the Shrugged Shoulders saw Brother Jew cut this thing open with a glowing poker card, the shock was self-evident. "Look, this is the strength of a superhero," Feng Bujue said to the people in the next room through the hole he cut. "Don't move. Put down the weapons in your hands." He stood in front with a gun and pointed at Brother Jew across the hole. Feng Bujue smiled and waved his hand. The poker card in his hand disappeared. "I told you not to be nervous." He tilted his head and looked at the general who was protected behind the soldiers. "I don't mean any harm, and I'm not a spy. In fact, my understanding of the people of the Shrugged Shoulders is very limited. You can indeed treat me as a tourist." He shrugged and spread out his hands. "As long as you don't threaten my personal safety or restrict my freedom, I have no reason to hurt you. Put down the gun." General Her pushed the soldiers in front of him away, walked forward, and pressed down the muzzle of He's gun. "Okay, I believe you." He adjusted his military uniform. "May I know your name?" After he asked this question, he immediately corrected himself. "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Superheroes use code names. May I know who you are?" "Poker Man," Feng Bujue blurted out. "Oh, I see," General Her replied. "Ha! Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." His tone softened. "Since you're a superhero, how about this? I'll help you contact the Universal Superhero Alliance and ask them to send someone to bring you back to Earth." "What?" Feng Bujue was shocked. Is there something wrong?" General Her asked. "No, it's nothing," Feng Bujue quickly replied. But internally he was thinking, no way. Are there really superheroes in the scenario world? And there's even a Universal Superhero Alliance? Have you not heard of the existence of a Universal Superhero Alliance? The surprise in his tone earlier was too obvious. Even though they were of different races, General Her saw through it. Because I just became a hero not long ago, and my power is very average." Feng Bujue saw the suspicion in the general's eyes, so he continued to lie. "Basically, I'm just a nobody." "Oh, I see," General Ha continued. "That's fine too. Anyway, when the people from the Alliance arrive, you can directly ask them about the relevant matters." After he finished speaking, he turned around and whispered a few words to a soldier behind him. Even though Brother Jew stood far away, he heard it clearly. General Her really did order his subordinate to contact the Universal Superhero Alliance. Long story short, a few minutes later, Feng Bujue was invited to a resting room to wait. After that, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. This is going to be complicated. Initially, I just wanted to make up an unverifiable reason to cover up the fact that I'm in a secret military zone on another planet. But now it's going to lead to a big development from the general's reaction. Superheroes have a high status in this universe. At least the people from Shrug Planet are friendly toward them. I wonder what kind of people I'll meet later. What if a Manhattan-level demigod comes and finds out that I'm a traveler from another dimension and sees me as a threat? That's not good. According to General He, the regular government forces of all the planets in the Milky Way Federation could contact the Universal Superhero Alliance. As long as there was a valid reason, the other party would basically agree to any request. Someone would definitely come within one universe week, approximately 1 hour. Depending on the urgency of the situation, this time could be shortened. However, Feng Bujue's situation was not very urgent. To use an analogy, it was basically like sending a lost alien home. If Brother Ju was an ordinary person from Earth, he would be sent back to Earth. Of course, he might be silenced. After going through a strict investigation by the people from Shrug Planet and confirming that he was not a spy. But at this moment, since he had revealed his identity as a superhero and displayed his superpowers, the nature of the situation had changed. Feng Bujue guessed correctly. Superheroes had a very high status in this universe. They were roughly equivalent to the Universal Security Bureau. There were a series of very complicated settings. I won't talk about it here. Let's go back to the story. Screech, the electronic door of the resting room opened. Under General Her's lead, 2 men in tights walked in. The man in front was about 1.8 meters tall. He wore a white tights with purple and gold stripes. He also wore an eye mask that was the same color as his clothes. This person had a head of black curly hair, brown skin, and no beard. Because he was wearing tights, it was very clear that this person's body shape was exactly the same as a human's. It seemed that he was also a hero from Earth. The person walking behind had similar physical characteristics as the person in front. He was also a brown-skinned human, but he had a beard. The other thing was that his tights were blue and white. Let me introduce you. General He brought the 2 men in front of Brother Ju. Feng Bujue was unprecedentedly nervous. He broke out in a cold sweat. His gaze swept across the faces of the 2 men in front of him. He saw 2 pairs of eyes full of righteousness. At that moment, he thought to himself, I feel uncomfortable all over. Since ancient times, good and evil have not coexisted. He inexplicably classified himself as evil. This is Poker Man. General He gestured with his hand. Feng Bujue stood up from the sofa and squeezed out a painful smile. Hello, this little brother is new here. In fact, I just casually picked a name, made a set of Chinibu clothes, and came out to be a hero. I haven't found an organization yet. Hey, you don't have to be so polite, young man. The man in the lead said heartily. As long as you have a heart that pursues justice, the door of the Universe Superhero Alliance will always be open for you. PFFF. Feng Bujue suddenly puffed up his cheeks, his whole face flushed red. He roared in his heart, Hey, what's with this Indian accent? Are you kidding me? You're obviously serious, but you can make it sound so funny. Well said. General He gestured to the superhero who spoke. This is a well-known hero from the cheat planet who has recently been very active in the North area. Breakdancer. This sentence was like a sledgehammer, hitting Brother Ju's heart. Hey, he almost shouted. Due to excessive restraint, his whole body slumped on the sofa. He appeared. Such a strange fellow had appeared just like that. Isn't this a character that I casually made up? Does he really exist? Is this kind of universe really okay? No wonder it's an Indian setting. Speaking of which, I didn't imagine this guy's image at all. Did the script automatically fill in the gaps? And this is his partner. General He gestured to the man in the blue and white tights and continued, Kick the strange guest. Sure enough, it's you. Feng Bujue continued to roast loudly in his heart. The universe is finished. It's completely finished. I'd better change to another world as soon as possible. A desert is not bad. Let me run freely towards the setting sun in the desert with a temperature of 40 degrees. Oh, I've heard about it. Poker Man kicked the strange guest step forward and spoke with the same Indian accent. You were involved in a space-time storm after confronting a super criminal. After countless adventures and tests, you finally broke through the dimension and came to Planet Shrug's shoulder, opened a space crack in the desert, and successfully returned to this world. right? It's really amazing. It's really amazing. This kind of content that inexplicably appeared out of nowhere is simply tyrannical, cool, and awesome. It's basically that guy with the surname Her who added fuel to the fire. You might as well say that I'm Ultraman. That way, it'll be easier for me to cover up my lies. Wouldn't it be better to just say xia, xiao and fool them? Feng Bujue roared in his heart. I really want to become light. Become light, light, ah? What's wrong with you? Breakdancer looked at Brother Jew and said, Poker Man, why aren't you saying anything? When they saw Feng Bujue sitting on the sofa with a pale face and not saying a word, they thought something was wrong with him. Nothing, Feng Bujue replied, just a little distracted. Chapter 5:24. After some small talk, Feng Bujue followed the two strange heroes. Accompanied by General Ho and a few soldiers, they soon arrived at Hangar Number 4 of the base. This hangar was filled with many standard mechas from Planet Shrugged Shoulders. Among these mechas, there was a small spaceship that was obviously different in design and color. The spaceship's length, width, and height were about 15, 16 meters, and its overall shape was like a shoe without an upper. The main color of the spaceship was ocean blue, and the secondary color was orange. On the side of the spaceship, there was a line of black text. The system's translation of the text was Universal Superhero Alliance. This should be some kind of language that is widely recognized in the universe. Feng Bujue looked at the untranslated version of the text and thought to himself, speaking of which, the setting of this scenario is much more complicated than I thought. I wonder how many countries and intelligent races there are in this so-called Milky Way Federation. What is the diplomatic status of the various planets? How is the technological exchange? When Brother Jew was still thinking, the group reached the side of the spaceship. Then General Ha and the other Shrug Shoulders aliens stopped moving. The general immediately said, Then, I'll stop here. He paused. The runway has been cleared, so you can leave at any time. Thank you again for everything you've done for me, General. Feng Bujue still thanked General Ha politely. You're welcome, Poker Man, General Ha replied. Superheroes are the protectors of the universe, so it's natural for us to support you. After a few more pleasantries, Brother Jew finally bade farewell to the Shrug Shoulders aliens and boarded the spaceship driven by the two superheroes. The interior of the spaceship was not that weird. In fact, it looked no different from a sci-fi movie. The corridors, doors, and seats were all designed according to human size. The two heroes led Feng Bujue to the front of the spaceship. They arranged for him to sit in the third pilot's seat and reminded him to put on his seatbelt. You're quite lucky, Pokerman Breakdancer turned on the spaceship's operating system and said, The climate of Planet Shrugged is similar to Earth. He paused for a moment. If you land on a planet with a dangerous environment and no intelligent life forms, it will be dangerous. Yeah, Feng Bujue replied. If I was sent to a planet without an atmosphere, I would be dead. That was true, but he knew very well that that kind of situation did not exist. The system would not send players into an environment where death was certain. Therefore, this wasn't luck, it was a necessity. By the way, Poker Man, Step's strange guest turned back and asked, You haven't registered with the Alliance yet, right? I'm ashamed to say this. Brother Jew pretended to be embarrassed and replied, I just found out today there's an organization called the Universal Superhero Alliance. Huh, you really don't know anything. Step's strange guest laughed. That's good, isn't it? Breakdancer continued. At least it proves that Poker Man became a hero purely for the sake of justice. As soon as this remark came out, Feng Bujue's expression changed slightly. He instantly caught a hint of meaning in Breakdancer's words. That means, Brother Jew thought to himself, there are some people who didn't become heroes for the sake of justice. Seems like there's something to be gained. Although he was calculating in his mind, he still acted as if nothing had happened. He replied in a calm tone, Then, are there any requirements to apply to join the Alliance? If possible, I would also like to join your organization. Well, if you want to join, of course there are requirements. Step Strange guest replied. Step Strange guest replied. But you don't have to be too nervous. I heard from General that you can easily destroy this super metal on their planet with your superpower. With your power level, it shouldn't be a problem to get the basic hero qualification. While they were talking, Thunderbolt Dancer had already finished the preparations for departure. He picked up a walkie-talkie, adjusted the frequency, and said, "Oh, General, this is Thunderbolt Dancer. Our spaceship is ready to depart. Requesting departure. Roger, please use runway 3 outside the hangar. The gate at the intersection is open and the navigation lights are ready." General Hez's voice quickly sounded from the communication device. Understood. Thank you again for your cooperation, General. While they were talking, the spaceship had already started moving. The rumbling sound rang in Foam Bujue's ears. The huge power generated by the thrusters could be felt directly by his body. It was then that Brother Jew realized that he was about to experience the first space flight in his life. Although it was in the virtual world, it was enough to make people excited. "Then you can come back to the Alliance with us." Pokerman Breakdancer piloted the spaceship at a rapid speed. At the same time, he was distracted to talk to Brother Jew. "Or, we can send you back to Earth first if you need." "No need. I'll go back to the Alliance with you." Foam Bujue replied. "You really don't need to?" Breakdancer said, "After you disappeared, your family and friends on Earth should be very worried. You really don't need to go back first." "There's no need." Foam Bujue interrupted him and deliberately said in a very sad tone, "I'm all alone in this world." I understand." Breakdancer seemed to have heard something. After hearing this, he stopped talking and focused on piloting. The Stomp Stranger turned his head back to look at Brother Jew deeply. There was a complicated look in his eyes. My acting is too good. Even I admire myself." Foam Bujue thought to himself. His expression was still serious. Obviously, Brother Jew had gotten into character. The poker man that he was playing was undeniably a tragic hero with a tragic past that he did not wish to recall. Since it was an unbearable past, there was no need to talk about it. Since there was no need to talk about it, it avoided the risk of being exposed. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 5 minutes later, the spaceship rushed out of the atmosphere of Planet Shrug's shoulder and entered the space environment. Foam Bujue didn't feel the effect of weightlessness. It seemed that the gravity simulation device in the spaceship was turned on by default. Beep, beep. Breakdancer was just about to activate the warp device when the communication device on the bridge rang. He looked at it. It was a call from the headquarters. He quickly pressed a button and said, "This is Curry. I'm Breakdancer. Naming a spaceship like this is too much." Foam Bujue said, "The 2 crew members are Hindustani. Even though it's not racist, it's obviously stereotypical." When he was complaining in his heart, he didn't seem to realize that the word Hindustani in his mind was also a term of this nature. "Breakdancer, how's your mission coming along?" The voice on the other side of the communicator asked. Breakdancer replied, "We found a superhero from Earth. He is interested in joining the Alliance. Now we are preparing to bring him back. Please wait a moment." The other side said, "The Alliance just received a warning about a sea level incident. The coordinates are very close to you. Can you go and deal with it first?" "Of course." Breakdancer agreed immediately. "It's my duty. Even though it's just a sea level incident, please be careful, Breakdancer," the other side said. "Understood." Breakdancer said, "If there's an accident, we will report first." "All right, I've sent over the coordinates of the alarm. Good luck to you." "Thank you." After the communication ended, Clodhopper laughed and said, This cosmic year has been really busy." Breakdancer quickly changed the course of the spaceship according to the received coordinates. After setting it, he turned back to Foam Bujue and said, "Pokerman, I'm sorry. It seems that you will have to come with us to another place first." It's okay." Foam Bujue replied. "Can you tell me in detail, what is a sea level incident?" Even though he didn't express any opinions just now, he remembered every word of the other side's conversation. Clodhopper continued, That's the classification of various crisis events in the Alliance." At this point, he looked up at Breakdancer next to him. After exchanging a look with him, he said, Uh, According to the rules, it's not convenient for us to disclose relevant details to people outside the Alliance. But you are a hero anyway, and it's very likely that you will become our comrade. I'll tell you first. Well, I'm really flattered. Fong Bujue replied. Clodhopper continued. The so-called sea level incident is a crisis that is enough to destroy a planet. What the hell? Fong Bujue said, destroying a planet is only a sea level incident. If that's the case, Frisia's level is barely an A-level incident. Oh, is it that serious? Fong Bujue asked with a puzzled expression on the surface. Well, actually, from the perspective of the universe, it's not too serious. Clodhopper continued. Generally speaking, sea-level crises can be handled by the local heroes of the planet. But if the heroes of the planet are not strong enough, or if they ask for support, the Alliance will also send people over. Then this is... Fong Bujue asked tentatively. Breakdancer took over the conversation and said, from the coordinates, the planet that sent the warning is... Trash, 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 trash. Wait a minute. Fong Bujue interrupted. Let me guess. This planet is a colony of the shrugged shoulders, right? Yes. Hundreds of years ago, it was still an uninhabited planet. But then there was a climate change, and it became a habitable planet. According to the interstellar law and the general rules of the Milky Way Federation, the closest and most suitable intelligent race to live there is the Shrugged Shoulders people. Therefore, they took over the planet and officially named it. Oh, Fong Bujue nodded and pretended to be enlightened, waiting for the other party to continue. The technology of the Shrugged Shoulders people is very advanced, but their combat ability is relatively weak. The Shrugged Shoulders people do have a few superheroes, but their strength... Clodhopper adjusted a few times on the console in front of the co-pilot and pulled up a set of data. He looked at it and said to Brother Bujue, well, their strength should not be able to deal with a sea-level incident. In addition, in the database of the Alliance, there are no records of superheroes from the Shrug planets, Clodhopper added. Understood. Fong Bujue said so. I need the two of you to help. He paused and looked serious. I don't know. Is there anything I can help with? Chapter 525. In just a few minutes, the spacecraft had completed the short-range warp and entered the orbit of Planet Slag. This planet looked very similar to Planet Towering Shoulder. From the perspective of the universe, they were both yellow planets, but Planet Slag planet was slightly smaller. The gravitational force I felt on Planet Shrugged is basically the same as on Earth. As they entered the atmosphere, Fong Bujue was still thinking about the details. Assuming the density of this planet is similar to Planet Shrugged, then its gravitational force should be correspondingly smaller. If there's a battle later, I have to be careful. The gravitational force of this planet is slightly smaller than Planet Shrugged. You have to be careful when you get off the ship, Pokerman. The kicker also turned around to remind him. Oh, I understand. Fong Bujue responded. After this period of interaction, he had a general understanding of the personality characteristics of these two heroes. The breakdancer was a calm person. Although he was not a man of few words, he rarely talked nonsense. The step geek, on the other hand, was more talkative. His personality was relatively lively, and he was the kind of person who was easy to get along with others. He often made jokes. Other than the thick Indian accent and the weird hero title, these two are quite normal, Fong Bujue said internally. Looks like the people in this universe are just relatively naive, but they still have a basic level of intelligence. At least, I haven't seen that kind of hilarious idiot yet. Ha ha, ha ha. A burst of wild laughter interrupted Brother Jew's thoughts. In a sense, it was a slap in his face. Just as Curry entered the atmosphere and began to decelerate, the main screen of the spacecraft suddenly cut to a strange image. In the image, there was a Planet Shrugged. He was wearing a mechanical kinetic skeleton and a mechanical helmet. Just from his laughter and expression, it was clear that he was not a good person. Ha ha ha. You Chow Alliance, you really came. The person laughed for a while before finally speaking. Who are you? The kicker shouted at the screen. Oomph. You don't even know who I am, you ignorant people. The man snorted. I'm the great genius scientist, Dr. Unwi. Hey, what kind of grudge do you have with your parents? Phone Bujua said. You can actually hack into this ship's communication channel? Thunder Dancer looked at the other party and said in a low voice. Ha ha ha. Dr. Biao laughed. What a joke. This is a piece of cake. He paused for a moment and put on a ferocious expression. Listen up, heroes. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Turn back now or else. Oh, you dare to threaten us? Thunder Dancer interrupted. So, you're the initiator of this crisis. Oomph. To be able to see through this in an instant, you're pretty smart. Dr. Bayu snorted coldly. You call this F** King smart? Feng Bujue was shocked. He cried out in his heart. You're just short of writing the words I'm the villain on your face. Now that things have come to this, I have nothing to hide. Dr. Bayu continued. Yes, my real title should be the great, evil, invincible genius scientist. Dr. Unwi, what are you hiding? Feng Bujue was really anxious for the other party's intelligence. What have you been hiding from the beginning to the end? The only difference is adding evil and invincible to your self-description. You're determined to be a thief. What are you trying to do? The kicker glared at the other party. Ha ha, you'll find out soon, Dr. Bayu said and ended the communication. During their conversation, the ship had descended a lot. At this time, Thunder Dancer adjusted the ship's navigation mode and changed it to autopilot in the atmosphere. After doing this, Thunder Dancer said, This Dr. Bayu is really arrogant. It seems that this mission is not easy to deal with. The kicker added, After all, it's still a sea level. As for how serious it is, we'll have to confirm with the local government that sent out the alarm. I say you two. Feng Bujue finally could not help but remind them from behind. Since the other party can successfully hack into Curry's communication system, it means that our location has been exposed. The two in front heard this and were stunned. The other party already knows our location, but he didn't attack us. This doesn't make sense. Brother Bayu continued. Of course, it could be that the conditions don't allow him to attack. For example, his location is on the other side of the planet, and he can't pose a threat to us in a short period of time. Or maybe he doesn't have any effective anti-air means. So, he can only threaten us through the communication system. He paused, but he just confidently said that we will find out his intentions. Then, there are only 3 possibilities. He raised 3 fingers. 1. He is confident that he can quickly control us after we land. 2. The danger he created has affected the entire planet. No matter where we land, we'll be affected immediately. 3. He's talking nonsense. At this point, Feng Bujue paused for a few seconds like he was waiting for the 2 heroes to digest the information that he had given them. Then he continued. Personally, I believe the second scenario is the most likely, and the first scenario is second. But no matter which scenario it is, it indicates that we'll most likely encounter some kind of danger when we land. Oh, you're a genius. Pokerman. The kicker suddenly widened his eyes at Brother Bayu and shouted. Oh, no. I'm just following common sense. Feng Bujue was not being modest, but the other party did not give him a chance to continue. Even Thunder Dancer was shocked. So, in addition to superpowers, you're also a hero with super intelligence. Hey, are you implying that the average IQ of all intelligent races in this universe is below 80? Feng Bujue naturally would not say this out loud. He silently complained in his heart. No wonder the doctor said you're smart. But is this setting really okay? How did you develop into the interstellar era, relying on a very small number of geniuses to drive the course of history? When he thought of this, his expression changed slightly. Wait. If you think about it carefully, it seems quite normal. Human technology in the real world is also driven by some outstanding talents at the top of the pyramid. The kicker did not notice the change in Brother Bayou's expression. He continued, "Pokerman, you may not know, but there hasn't been a super-intelligent hero on Earth for many years, and heroes with both superpowers and superintelligence are rare in the universe." "Ha! Ha! I didn't know I was that good." Fong Bujue replied with a dry laugh. "Of course, at present, in the Supreme Council of the Alliance, there are two super-intelligent heroes." The kicker said, "They are Toadman and Tinfoil Man. Can this name be any worse?" Brother Bayou thought to himself, although they don't have any superpowers, they have unparalleled intelligence. The kicker continued to explain, and they are very rich with almost unlimited financial resources. In the early days of the Alliance, before any sponsorship, they supported the operation of the entire organization. Why does this setting sound so familiar? Fong Bujue thought to himself, and why did I just casually say a few words, but this guy started to explain in detail with great interest. The NPCs in this world are too easy to get information out of. The kicker was not finished. Toadman, real name Enway Shrub, is the only son of the Shrub family, the richest family on Mahut. Enway witnessed his parents being killed by criminals when he was a child. He swore to wipe out the evil and not let other children suffer the same fate. For this reason, he visited many famous teachers, mastered a variety of detective knowledge and combat skills, and relied on a large number of high-tech equipment made by the Shrub Group to start his crusade. During the day, he is a brainless, rich second generation, a playboy in the eyes of others. At night, he is the dark knight that terrorizes criminals. Toadman, is it okay to copy Batman's settings so blatantly? Is it okay for you to tell me his real name? And why is it Toad? Why? Fong Bujue could not hold it in any longer. He really wanted to shout out all these words, but he could not. Tinfoil Paper Man. The stomped stranger was still talking. His real name is Taz Nitto, the heir to the Nitto Corporation. His hometown is the Mud Planet, which is famous for its technological civilization. He is a world-famous arms dealer, physicist, engineer, philanthropist, inventor, adventurer, billionaire, and playboy. He wears his own power armor, which gives him superhuman strength, endurance, flight ability, and a variety of weapon systems, so he can be a hero. And the power source of the armor is the mini-arc energy furnace on his chest. I'll interrupt. Brother Jew could not hold it in any longer. Then why is he called Tinfoil Man? Is his armor? Yes, that's right. The basic material of his armor is the super tinfoil he developed. The kicker continued. This material is very light, almost comparable to tights, and it can withstand pressure and high temperature. With his molecular-level technology, it can, hey, look. At this time, the kicker, who was controlling the spacecraft to descend, interrupted their conversation. He turned a split screen to the main screen in front of them. This is captured by the spacecraft's monitor. He looked nervous. Were those on the ground? The kicker immediately turned his head and said in shock, "This is definitely not a regular mechanized army of the military." Fong Bujue was struggling in the abyss of pain at this moment. He was close to the point of his balls cracking, so no matter what happened next, it did not matter to him. Brother Jew raised his eyes to look at the screen. He saw that on the yellowish plains below the spaceship, there was a large black shadow moving slowly. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that it was an army made up of machines. Countless mechanical monsters of different shapes and sizes were in formation and advancing at high speed on the land. "What the hell?" Fong Bujue said, "Dr. Jinx, can't you just shrug your shoulders and come up with something like a zombie virus? How do you want us to deal with an army of mechanical monsters? By the way, aren't the financial resources and execution ability of villains like you a little too high? Isn't it better to use the same amount of money and energy to do something more serious? The coordinates of the alarm are not far from here. I'll switch to manual mode now and get closer." The kicker said and put his hands on the control panel. "Kicker, try to contact the government forces." "Understood." The kicker responded and then picked up the communication device, pressed a few buttons on the control panel, and waited for 10 seconds. Strange. I can't find a signal. It's possible that the government forces have blocked the signal of the base to hide there. The kicker did not finish this sentence because halfway through, he had seen the base with his naked eye. Feng Bujue also saw the scene in the distance. He said in a low voice from behind, "We're late." Chapter 5:26. The government base about 1 kilometer away had already been ravaged by a large number of mechanical monsters. Not only the surface facilities, even the underground facilities were severely damaged. The cracked surface of the ground, the rampaging monsters, the billowing smoke and flames, and a large amount of wreckage and corpses left behind from the battle painted a picture of death and destruction. There was no need to consider the possibility of survivors. "It seems that there is no need to land," Thunder Dancer muttered. "Let me ask a few questions." Feng Bujue interrupted and asked, "How many people are there on this planet? What percentage of the total area of the planet is inhabited? Also, how many government agencies are there with interstellar communication capabilities? Where are they?" "I have already checked on the way here," Thunder Dancer answered as he pulled up the data on the control panel in front of him. According to the Alliance's database, the total population of planet Slag is about 250 million. The planet's utilization rate is 14%. Of course, only the highest government of the planet has interstellar travel and communication equipment. He paused. However, the base that is sending us the signal is not the Interstellar Affairs Agency that they reported to the Milky Way Federation. "Well, that's not strange," Feng Bujue said. "Not strange." Thunder Dancer was puzzled. "Yes, that's normal. The base in front of us is undoubtedly a secret military facility. Otherwise, it would not be built in this wasteland." Feng Bujue said, "For a facility like this, the government of planet shrugged naturally would not report it to the Milky Way Federation or the Universe Superhero Alliance. Even if this place is discovered by the outside world, they can say that it is a military secret and they have the right not to report it." He spread out his hands. "In fact, this secret is indeed useful now. If it were not for the existence of this base, I am afraid that this planet would not even be able to send out a signal for help." "Why do you say that?" Step Strange Guest asked again. "This is obvious." When Brother Jew was reasoning, he would often accidentally reveal his arrogant tone. The first step of Dr. Biao's operation must be to control the highest government of planet Slag. The first step of any plan is very important. The more perfect the execution, the smoother the subsequent steps will be. For example, as long as Dr. Biao's plan is thorough and fast, he can take care of the planet's government before they ask for help from the outside world. And he had obviously done it. The fact that Dr. Death had hacked into Curry's communication channel was enough to prove that the Star government had fallen. Professor Bayou must have used the resources of the Star government, which is why he was able to capture our location and complete the invasion. "Oh, I understand now." Step Strange Guest continued. Even though Dr. Doom had taken over the Star government, he definitely didn't know about the existence of this base. By the time he discovered this in the government database and sent troops to attack, the alarm had already been sounded. "Yes," Feng Bujue nodded. "Unfortunately, the commander here is still a little slow. I think when the base lost contact with the galactic government, he must have taken it for granted that it was a communication device failure or something." He craned his neck and looked down at the army on the ground. He only realized the severity of the situation when the army arrived. By then, he couldn't care less. He must have sent a message directly to the home planet and the Universal Superhero Alliance from this secret base. Break Dancer interrupted again. "That's not right. Assuming Dr. Biao took over the Star government an hour ago, Break Dancer was also on Earth, so he consciously used the Hour unit to communicate with Brother Jew from Earth. Then why didn't he use the galactic defense of this planet's government to deal with us?" Brother Jew habitually used his finger to touch the bridge of his nose as he stared into the distance. He said methodically, "There are two possibilities. The first possibility is he can't use it, because for a weapon system of this level, when activating it, It definitely needs the security key of a senior administrative or military officer, which means the key, password, fingerprint, and so on. You should know this better than me. Anyway, as far as I know, this is the case on Earth. The second possibility is those weapons have already been destroyed by his mechanical monster army. Oh, that makes sense. Breakdancer agreed. After all, we have entered the atmosphere now. Dr. Biao has lost the chance to heavily injure or even destroy us in space. The kicker said, in a close combat, he is definitely no match for us. That's right. Now we just need to find where Dr. Biao is. Breakdancer said, if I'm not mistaken, he should still be with the galactic government. Feng Bujue reminded. You're right. Breakdancer answered and immediately reconfigured the ship's driving mode and navigation target. I'll drive the ship to the capital of planet Draga. There are only 3 of us. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes. Who knows how many of these mechanical monster troops the galactic government has? Perhaps there are even more advanced combat units. Don't we need to come up with a plan to sneak up on them? There's no need. The kicker interrupted him. Don't worry, Pokerman. As long as you follow us, you'll be fine. Hey, what's with this confidence? Brother Jew thought to himself. Just how strong are you guys? Don't tell me the aliens are really cheating. Okay. Feng Bujue still gave a perfunctory answer. The ship traveled for a while more before it approached the galactic government of planet Draga. During this time, Brother Jew left his seat to go to the toilet. Of course, it was not for the sake of convenience. Instead, he wanted to find a place where there was no one and no surveillance to practice his wild ball punch. Not long after he returned to the cockpit, Curry flew over the sky of city. A minute later, Breakdancer operated the control panel and switched the ship into hovering mode. Then he stood up and said, "Let's go down." Huh? Feng Bujue was stunned. Are we going to jump down just like that? Yes. Breakdancer said. You can't fly, right? It's okay, we can bring you along. No, that's not necessary. Feng Bujue interrupted. I'm not worried about falling to my death. I mean, is it okay for the ship to stop in midair? What if we get shot down? Don't worry, I've set up an automatic return. Breakdancer replied. After we jump down, the ship will fly back to the Alliance on its own. Also, I've just sent a standard document to the headquarters. The rescue and reconstruction team is already on the way. When we're done here, they'll be almost there. We'll just hitch a ride back. Oh, haha. Feng Bujue's smile was filled with endless bitterness. That's good. Although he said this, his heart was lamenting. Why did I ask them a stupid question like, do they need help? I'm digging my own grave. Now, I can't even say I want to go back with the ship, and I just went to the toilet. I can't even use the excuse of a sudden stomachache. Although he was depressed, Brother Jew did not have much choice. Now he could only abandon the ship with these 2, jump into the enemy's camp, and fight to the death. The 3 of them quickly passed through the axle of the ship and came to the external hatch door. Are you sure you don't need our help? It's very dangerous to fall from a high altitude. The moment before the door opened, the kick-ass stranger looked back and asked, Don't worry, this is my strength. Feng Bujue replied calmly. This was true. In theory, as long as the soles of his feet touched the ground first, it did not matter how high he jumped. Oh, that's good. The kick-ass stranger replied with a smile. At this time, Breakdancer had already opened the hatch. Although the altitude of the ship had dropped to more than 1,000 meters, the wind pressure outside was still very high. The whistling of the wind poured into their ears and made them nervous. Breakdancer turned back and shouted, I'll jump first. Pokerman, you follow behind me. It seemed that he was still worried, so he arranged for the kick-ass stranger to take the rear. After all, this Pokerman had not shown any ability. If he tried to be brave and fell to his death, it would be a problem. Okay, Brother Jew replied. He cursed in his heart. Damn it. My plan to hide at the back, pretend to sprain my ankle, and then return with the ship is ruined. In fact, Brother Jew's plan was impossible to succeed because the automatic return system was activated based on the weight. Unless he could find something as heavy as himself to throw out in a short time, the ship would not move. Even if he used Jeppo and jumped out and bounced back in 2 seconds, it would be useless. As long as the error of the internal weight was too large, the ship would stop moving. It was worth mentioning here. Although the name of the ship was strange and unimpressive, it was still a standard ship of the Universe Superhero Alliance. The ship was equipped with a safety system invented by Toadman. Like this automatic return setting, it could prevent enemies from sneaking into the ship under most circumstances. In addition, this ship had many other excellent settings, such as optical camouflage, deep sea flight, and so on. It was just that Brother Jew did not know much about them for the time being. Seeing this, everyone should be able to understand why Breakdancer and Kick-Ass Stranger scoffed at Dr. Doom's army, but were surprised that Dr. Doom could hack into the ship's communication system. Back to the story. As Breakdancer jumped out of the hatch, Fong Bujua and Kick-Ass Stranger jumped out one after another. 2 seconds after the three of them went out, the hatch of the ship automatically closed. The gravitational force of this planet was indeed weak. Fong Bujua had already noticed it during the process of falling. In addition, he also noticed something else, and that was directly below the three of them. Within a radius of 3 kilometers, a large number of mechanical monsters had gathered, ready for battle. Chapter 527. You came at the right time, Thunderdancer said as he looked at the battle formation below. Poker Man, be careful. The Stomp Strange guest shouted from behind. Okay. Fong Bujua replied loudly, but in his heart he said, I was underestimated. To be honest, I'm still a little confident in my strength. In a situation like this, as long as I want to Tempest Kick, chaos before landing is enough to cause huge damage. Even if the defense of those machines is very strong, it is impossible to be unscathed. His thoughts were interrupted at this time because you underscore can underscore touch underscore this, a popular rap song, suddenly sounded in his ears. It was not only the song, but also the melody, rhythm, accompaniment, and so on. The source of the sound was completely unknown, but everyone present heard it. Then, Thunderdancer stepped on the head of a mechanical Tyrannosaurus. The next second, the giant mechanical monster exploded instantly and fell apart. Some of the smaller mechanical monsters nearby were directly killed by the sputtering debris and the falling body of the Tyrannosaurus. In the flames of the explosion, Thunderdancer continuously flipped in the air and landed steadily. As the saying goes, a real man never looks back at an explosion. After Thunderdancer landed, he did not look back. He danced to the tune of you underscore can underscore touch underscore this, the representative work of the legendary rapper and dancer MC Hammer. The brainwashing and classic level of this song was not inferior to Jiangnan style, and the dance steps were more gorgeous and difficult. There were many jumping and spinning movements, the prototype of the orc dance in WoW. Now, under Thunderdancer's interpretation, many new tricks were added, such as puppet move, moonwalk, bang step, and a large number of floor-spinning movements. Every movement of Thunderdancer could release the power of thousands of kilograms. Along with the rhythm of the music, it also released invisible shockwaves. The mechanical army fell like wheat in the rhythm of the music. They did not have the power to fight back at all. F***CK. Fong Bujua only stood there and watched for a few seconds. He was so shocked that he could not close his mouth. He thought to himself, what is this? Find a few dozen Indians to do a square dance, and the Milky Way will be unified. Stomp Strange guest stood beside Brother Jew with his hands on his chest and shook along with the rhythm. He said, looks like I don't have to do anything. Yes, you have to leave him a way out, Fong Bujua said internally. In less than a song, all the mechanical monsters within a 3-kilometer radius had been cleaned up by the breakbeat dancer. Fong Bujua stood to the side, but did not move at all. He really regretted not using Rankyaku in the air just now. If he had used it, he might have been able to get some skill points. It would not have been a wasted trip. At this moment, a burst of sinister laughter sounded. Along with the laughter came a black beam of light. The target of the beam was none other than the weakest of the three, Feng Bujue, at least everyone present, including himself, thought so. Be careful, the Stomp's strange guest shouted and stood in front of Brother Jew. In the blink of an eye, all that could be heard was the sound of dozens of continuous kicks. Following that, the strange man put his hands on his hips, maintained an upright posture, and kicked out with his foot. A force like a hidden dragon came out of the abyss and brazenly met the beam of light. The two collided and set off a raging wave, leaving countless ditches in the surrounding buildings and streets. Ha ha ha! As expected of the breakbeat dancer and the Stomp's strange guest, I knew that those cannon fodders would not be able to do anything to you. The person who laughed strangely appeared on the street as he spoke. This person was also from the Shrub Planet. He was wearing a set of black armor. The style was very similar to that of Dr. Wither and Wither. It seemed that this was a mini-boss level character. Who are you? The Stomp's strange guest asked. Ha 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 ha! I am the first general under the great, evil, invincible Dr. Wither and Wither. He first said the name of his boss, as if this could elevate himself. Marshal Wretched Wretched. Nonsense. Suddenly, another shout pierced through the air. Before Feng Bujue and the two heroes could speak, there was another uninvited guest who interrupted. I am the first general under the great, evil, invincible Dr. Wither and Wither. The speaker came from behind Wretched Wretched. He was also wearing a set of similar armor. Remember my name, Superheroes. I am a general of the Stomp's strange guest. His few. Feng Bujue took a deep breath. In the face of the enemy, he could finally speak freely. I don't know why, although the outcome has not been decided yet, but I'm already beginning to sympathize with you. Where did this trash hero come from? Wretched Wretched looked at Brother Jew with disdain and said coldly, I have never seen you before. I will let you see me today. Feng Bujue said as he took out the blade must break defense from his inventory. What? Do you want to fight me by taking out your weapon? Let me warn you first. This is a super armor invented by the doctor. Even if I'm hit by a missile, I'm not afraid. Had the attack of a hero like you. Bang! Red Spirit Chi suddenly appeared, and Feng Bujue's figure instantly disappeared from the other party's line of sight. Half a second later, Brother Jew arrived behind Poor and stretched out his leg to trip him. Even Poor himself felt that it was inconceivable. The force that came from his ankle was not very strong, but he could not help but fall down along with this force, falling like a dog eating mud. It wasn't over yet. Just as Poorman fell to the ground, a kitchen knife stabbed at the back of his head. His armor, which claimed to be able to withstand missiles, was pierced through like tofu. Instant activation of body enhancement spell. Modified, combined with Mischievous Child's lower whip kick and blade of mandatory defense penetration. Feng Bujue had already thought of this combo when he obtained this perfect weapon, and now he was going to test it out on this enemy with high defense. That poor Marshal didn't even have the chance to unleash 10% of the power of the armor before he was killed because he underestimated the enemy. What? Seeing this scene, General Rufus cried out in alarm. The Thunderbolt Dancer and the Step's strange guest on the side were also aghast. You can't even withstand a single blow. Brother Jew pulled out the kitchen knife and shook off the brain and blood on the knife. But he turned his head and looked at Rufus with an evil smile. You should be happy. You are now the undisputed #1 general. Brother Jew's smile was more than 10 times scarier than this group of amusing villains. Rufus and Rufus looked at each other. Then his expression changed abruptly. He turned around and ran. He didn't even dare to say a word because he was afraid that Rufus would catch up. In fact, he didn't need to run at all. What happened just now was the result of Poor's carelessness. As long as he was prepared and avoided the kick or forcefully twisted his body while falling, he could break this combo. Unfortunately, Rufus and Rufus were scared out of their wits. They didn't even have the courage to fight, so there was no need to talk about tactics. Oh, sorry. Feng Bujue put away the kitchen knife and walked to his two companions. There's a very important question I haven't asked yet. He paused. Our alliance allows heroes to kill people? The Thunderbolt Dancer had just recovered from a shock. He replied somewhat woodenly, Generally speaking, it's not recommended to kill people. It's best to let the criminals go to trial. But for crises above sea level, we are usually allowed to kill first and report later. Oh, then I will pay attention in the future. Feng Bujue replied calmly. He was using his actions to express what it meant to kill without blinking an eye. Wow, the step-strange guest reaction arc seemed to be relatively long. At this moment, he exclaimed, "Poker Man, I didn't know you were so strong." No, you two are more powerful. Brother Ju replied. What he said was true. In terms of raw strength, the Thunderbolt Dancer and the step-strange guest could easily beat him. But when factors such as conspiracy and trickery were factored in, Feng Bujue had no problem taking on the two of them alone. With your combat power, and you're a super intelligent hero, the Thunderbolt Dancer muttered. Poker Man, you might be able to enter the Supreme Council in the future. Is that so? Feng Bujue laughed dryly and thought to himself. I have a feeling that it will be a very troublesome matter, that. Anyway, let's solve the problem in front of us first. Brother Ju changed the topic. Chapter 528. That being said, but now, the enemies have either died or escaped. He scratched his chin and thought. How are we going to find Dr. Wither? I have a question. Feng Bujue said. That giant building over there. He pointed at a building in the distance. What is that for? Oh, that's the office building of the trash dash. Then Dr. Wither is probably inside there. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes. Poor, and Wither came from that direction, and Wither ran in that direction as well. You have a point. Thunder Dancer nodded. No wonder you are a super intelligent hero. So, am I the smart one, or are you the idiot? Feng Bujue complained internally. It feels like the standard of super and intelligent has been lowered by you two. By the way, why didn't you just fly the spaceship to the top of the building before jumping down? Don't tell me it was to prevent anti-air fire. I don't believe you can think that far ahead. Okay, then we shall depart now, Thunder Dancer said. Oh, by the way, wait for me. Brother Ju suddenly remembered something. As he spoke, he walked toward Poor's body. Thunder Dancer and Thunder Dancer looked at each other, not knowing what Poker Man was up to. Actually, Feng Bujue just wanted to search the body, but he knew that Thriller Paradise was not a game where you would get loot from killing monsters. Even if you killed the scenario boss, you might not get anything. So I can't take it off. Feng Bujue searched Poor's body for a long time, but he could not find anything valuable, and he could not remove the armor on the man. Brother Ju realized that the black armor was not worn on poor body. The only part of the armor that could be removed was the helmet, but this part had been destroyed by the blade of armor piercing. Even the item description could not be seen. Poker Man, are you looking for something? Break Dancer asked after watching for a while. Brother Ju reacted quickly. With his acting skills, wit, and storytelling ability, he could fool the two before him. I want to see if the helmet can still be used. Oh, I get it. You want to use the communication device or navigation system in the helmet to find the location of Dr. WW, right? Step Strange Guest asked. Yes. Feng Bujue quickly nodded. Unfortunately, the helmet has been completely destroyed. He stood up. We'll have to take it one step at a time. Don't worry, Poker Man. If we don't have enough information, we'll just spend more time. Thunder Dancer said. Thunder Dancer and I are both galactic superheroes. We're more than capable of dealing with sea-level incidents. Even if there are unexpected situations, they won't pose any threat to us. Galactic? Feng Bujue heard a new term. At this moment, Thunder Dancer and Thunder Dancer had already regarded Brother Ju as the backbone of the Alliance in the future. They naturally would not hide anything from him on these common-sense issues. Thunder Dancer immediately replied, well, this is the internal classification of superheroes set by the Alliance. Broadly speaking, There are 4 levels, namely city level, galactic, and universe level. Step Strange guest continued. Of course, the level isn't just based on fighting ability. For example, Toadman, although he doesn't have any superpowers, he is still classified as universe level because he doesn't need superpowers to do things that many star system level heroes can't do. Oh, understood. Feng Bujue read. He then turned around and pointed to the front. By the way, let's talk as we walk. At this point, Brother Ju was no longer worried about his own safety, so he made this suggestion. The other 2 agreed, and so the 3 of them set off on foot. Tell me more about the classification of crisis events. I'm also very interested in that. Feng Bujue continued. Thunderdancer replied, well, that's more complicated. He thought for a few seconds and sorted out his thoughts before saying, from low to high, there are a total of 7 levels. The lowest is level F, which refers to ordinary criminal activities, generally speaking, some behavior that violates the laws of the planet, such as murder, robbery, theft, and so on. Then there is level E, which refers to criminal activities that may destroy a city, such as creating giant monsters, releasing virus weapons, organizing troops to occupy towns, and so on. Above this is level D, which refers to criminal activities that may destroy a country. Although many planets are in a state of political integration, there are many planets like Earth where multiple countries coexist, so level D is set up. This level is between level E and level C. If a level E incident is not handled properly, it is very likely to be upgraded to level D. He paused here. The above 3 levels can usually be solved by 1 or more local superheroes of the planet involved. In most cases, there is no need to mobilize the manpower of the Alliance. Kicker took over at this time and said, as for level C, you already know that it refers to a crisis that is enough to destroy a planet, which is the kind of incident we are dealing with now. Feng Bujue responded twice and motioned for them to continue. Thunderdancer continued. Level C incidents, logically speaking, should be handled by local heroes, or rather, they have the priority to take over. However, for an incident of this level, most of the city-level heroes are unable to handle it alone. Therefore, some planets have also established their own superhero alliances. Whenever there is a crisis that a single hero cannot handle, they will unite. The Avengers, Feng Bujue blurted out. What? Thunderdancer was puzzled. Brother Ju inferred based on the other party's reaction. There was probably no Avengers in this universe, and there were no related comics. Nothing. I just suddenly thought of a good name for the organization. What do you think of the Avengers? Kicker laughed and said, you really know how to joke. That name doesn't sound like a hero organization, does it? Thunderdancer continued, yes. It sounds like an organization set up by supervillains, the Avengers. Do they want to take revenge on something? Take revenge on society? Brother Ju laughed drily. Ha! Just pretend I didn't say anything. He immediately changed the topic. Were we earlier? Oh, yes. If the local heroes can't handle a level C incident, then naturally the Alliance will step in. Thunderdancer replied. Some planets have no or only a few city-level heroes. In this case, as soon as the Alliance receives the news, they will immediately send people over. In order to resolve the crisis as soon as possible and save more lives, the Alliance will usually send people nearby. Of course, to deal with a level C crisis, there must be at least one hero above the level of a planet in the individual or team sent. When the 3 of them said this, they had arrived at a main road facing the government building. Mwaha! Suddenly, another burst of laughter rang out. More than 100 meters ahead, a row of humanoid mechas were neatly arranged in a square formation, walking over on foot. At the front of the formation was a short man in white armor. The laughter was also coming from him. Maha! Heroes of the Yushao Alliance, your journey has come to an end. The man yelled, consider yourself unlucky to have run into me. I am the first general under the great evil, and invincible Dr. Wither and 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 Wither's first general. What the F*** CK? Feng Bujue held his forehead with one hand and shook his head helplessly. I don't have any illusions about the names of these people anymore. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.